Good evening, everybody. Welcome to round one of this spiritual boxing match. Thank you to everybody with us live, physically here. And thank you to everybody joining us in another way. And I'd like to dedicate this class to my personal rabbi. It's wild to say that 20 years ago, I chanced upon his class, Thursday night shiur, Torah Or. His name's Rabbi Reuven Wolf. He is now in the process of purchasing a Chabad house in Los Angeles. And I would say, really, if it wasn't to him and to a family friend of ours, Chaki Abesera, who invited me to that class, I don't know if this would be existing right now. When I say this, not only this class, meaning the whole energy, the whole environment. So I'd like to dedicate whatever we're going to learn and all of the goodness that will hopefully come out of it to his success in his work. And also to anybody who needs a refuah shlema in your own minds, anybody who needs shidduchim, anybody who needs parnasa, anybody who needs good stuff. It should be really an elixir and a segula for all that our heart desires and needs in the realm of good. Amen. Before we begin the actual Maamer, in honor of the first class, and I think everybody has the feeling of like, we'll just go beyond tonight. At least I have that feeling, because you never know, with the Baruch Hashem, everybody knows what time we start here, and everybody knows the amount of consistency that exists. But my wife and I said, there's nothing like starting something new. The question is, can you finale? Can you land? But to start something new is incredible and very powerful, Baruch Hashem. So I feel like just to share a little bit of my personal inspiration of what this Sefer Torah Or is about. I should say as well that this is not a Parsha shiur. So anybody who is expecting Parshas Noach, I'm so sorry to disappoint. That we're going to focus on Shabbos in the non-live recordings. But what part of my inspiration is that everybody on Shabbos says, is this recorded? Was this recorded? Is the class that we're learning? Where can I get it? And I always answer, no, I don't. There's a magic to Shabbos that Baruch Hashem will stay in the oasis of Shabbos. But if I go in order, and if I have the power of the crowd with me, again, I'm not limiting it to time, 1, 2, 3, 10 years, whatever, but material will get recorded, and anybody who wants to review and anybody who wants to learn it again will have the material forever. So I ask you permission and sincere apologies on behalf of all the people who will forever perhaps listen to this. It's in honor of you guys who are bearing with me to not learn the weekly Parsha. So we'll be in Bereishis for quite a while, but I will say that the Maamer of Bereishis are fundamental. Being that Bereishis is literally the beginning of the whole Torah, you have a lot of fundamental elements that we'll be learning, and I think it'll be a nice journey for all of us. So before we begin the actual Maamer, I'm gonna read in English a few quotes that the Rebbe himself has on the power of the importance of learning this Sefer, Torah Or and Likutei Torah. Torah Or and Likutei Torah are authored by the Alter Rebbe, and for printing press purposes, they were divided into two different sections. Torah Or focuses on the books of Bereishis, Shmois, and Megillas Esther, and also has the Maamer of Chanukah. Likutei Torah, as we've been dwelling on the past month, focuses on Vayikra, Bamidbar, Dvarim, and all of the Yomim Tovim holidays. Elul, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Shmini Atzeres, and then Shir HaShirim, 50 pages of Shir HaShirim, which is fascinating. So the Rebbe said in the year 1955, this is called Businessmen and Chassidus. It's all written in Hebrew. I'm just reading the translation for just clarity purposes. It says, Chassidus explains the pasuk, when I find you outside, I will kiss you. This is a pasuk from Shir HaShirim, and Tza'acha b'chutz eshakecha, as a reference to the businessman who spends the majority of the day involved in worldly affairs. So that's the idea of, I'm outside your precincts. I'm outside the intimacy of your domain. I don't find a connection with you. There's a distance. That's the idea of outside. I'm not learning, I'm not davening, I'm not involved with something seemingly beruchnius. The inference is that the businessman must have rigorous schedules devoted to the study of Chassidus. So meaning to say, even though on the outside, Eshakacha, I'll kiss you, he compares the kisses, like Shlomo Melech says, I'll kiss you with the kiss of his mouth. That's the inner dimension of the Torah. That's like Hashem's kisses. So even though I'm involved in worldly affairs, nevertheless, how does a person's soul kiss God? Learn Chassidus. Okay? The Maamerim of Torah or Likutei Torah are arranged according to the Parshas HaShavua, meaning that they're connected to each week's Parsha. They are likewise connected to the events of the week, as explained in the Shalah, that the Torah study of a particular time is connected to that time. Accordingly, one should study the Maamerim of Torah or Likutei Torah pertaining to the Parshas HaShavua. Okay? So we're doing good so far. Each person should make a resolution bli neder. This was in the year 1955. The winter of 1955. Each person should make a resolution bli neder to study these two svarim and complete them, with the exception of the Maamerim of Shir HaShirim. Later, the Rebbe changes his perspective and says, I want you to include Shir HaShirim, which is a extremely rigorous protocol, by the week of Parshas Bereishis next year. So he said this in Parshas Vayeshev, so around December time. So he's like, I want you to make up all the Maamerim that you missed, which is like 9 Parshas. I want you to continue, and hopefully by next Bereishis, you're going to make a siyum on both Sfarim. The Maamerim of each Parsha should be studied that week, and over the course of the year, the Maamerim for the beginning of the year until now should be completed. The Zohar says that Hashem looked into the Torah and created the world. And similarly, when a person studies Torah, he supports the world's existence. Hence, by following this proposed study program, one will create a vessel for a plentiful livelihood, allowing him to learn calmly with harchavas hadas. I'm going to repeat that one more time, just for myself. Yeah, if a person's learning these Maamerim, one will create a vessel for plentiful livelihood, in Hebrew, leparnasa b'harchava, allowing him to learn calmly with harchavas hadas. It's self-understood that these instructions are aimed not only towards those present today, but also any Jew around the world who will study Torah or Likutei Torah on a weekly basis. Okay? The Torah promises, if you'll toil in studying Torah, I will deliver your rains in the proper time, that one's physical needs will be provided in a pleasant manner and at the proper time, and even more importantly, a blessing will reside in what is provided so that it will be used for healthy and happy purposes. This is quote number 1. Quote number 2. This is from 10 years later. What I just quoted is 1955. Now fast forward 10 years later, 1965. Regarding the recently published edition of Likutei Torah, I had really wanted it to be completed a long time ago. This is the Rebbe speaking. For various reasons, however, it was finished being printed only yesterday, Erev Shabbos Parshas Vayakel. This parsha serves as the conclusion of the Maamerim in Torah Or, while the Maamerim of Parshas Pekudei are found in Likutei Torah. Hashem made each thing take place in its proper time, and this certainly applies to Torah study. It is fitting, therefore, for each person to study each week the Maamerim of Likutei Torah pertaining to that week's Parshas HaShavua. So then he speaks about the idea of finishing Parshas Pekudei, and that a person should not borrow and repay, meaning to say that you should stick to that week's Parsha, and the Maamerim of Shir HaShirim should be split up over the course of the year, especially on Shabbos and Yom Tiv, so that the entire Likutei Torah will be completed by the time of Parshas V'zos HaBracha, including the Maamerim of Shir HaShirim. So this is where 10 years later the Rebbe adds a new edict to learn the Maamerim of Shir HaShirim. Now, by completing the entire Likutei Torah by Parshas V'zos HaBracha, we will be granted a good and blessed year. This applies both to the following year and to the previous year. This idea that the completion of the Likutei Torah will have an effect on the previous year is based on the premise that according to Chassidus, and this is very deep, Torah study must be accompanied by teshuvah. Before the revelation of Chassidus, people knew that one must study Torah lishma, for Hashem's sake, but they did not understand that Torah requires teshuvah. Teshuvah is a new ingredient sprinkled by the teachings of Chassidus as you learn Torah. So what does it mean to learn Torah through teshuvah? In general, they thought that Talmidei Chachamim don't need teshuvah at all. If you're a Talmid Chacham and you're learning Torah all day, at what point can you sin during your day? Chassidus, however, revealed that even Talmidei Chachamim and Tzaddikim require teshuvah. As the Zohar says, Mashiach will come and cause the Tzaddikim should do teshuvah. Teshuvah has an effect not only on the future, but also on the past. And not only are a person's averos uprooted, but they are transformed into merits, and he is elevated to a level higher than where he stood before he had sinned. Similarly, completing the study of Likutei Torah by Parshas V'Zeis HaBracha will bring blessing and success for the previous year as well. So we're not dealing with a typical, ordinary Torah sefer. We're dealing with, it's a sefer of segula. The Rebbe is saying when we commit to this learning, there's something that can happen spiritually, a spiritual retroactivity, that you're able to transform your past by learning this sefer. And he is elevated. This blessing will apply to each individual's physical and spiritual needs pertaining to their families, their health, and their livelihood. Now this is the crux. The Rebbe says, I'm not saying this as a drasha, meaning I'm not just trying to make it a, how do you say like a drasha, like a vart. It's not just like a vart, you want to hear a good dvar Torah. I mean this in the practical sense, that each person should study each week the Maamer Likutei Torah pertaining to that week. Although this directive applies mainly to those who are 20 years and older, an age that carries unique significance as explained in the Likutei Torah, specifically Parshas Bamidbar, where it speaks about the power of turning 20 years old. Those younger than this can do so as well, and the younger the better. This is similar to what we find that even young children participated in donating towards the Mishkan, and especially in light of what the Zohar teaches, that in the generation of Mashiach, even young children will understand Pnimius HaTorah, the Zohar, Chassidus, the inner dimension of Torah. This is unique to our generation. All this applies to all Jews, both those present here today and those who are not. Whoever hears about this will certainly spread the word to his acquaintances, including after Havdalah. The Rebbe says those methods that can't be used on Shabbos, he didn't even want to say the word telephone on Shabbos. One must begin with himself. After resolving to undertake this project, he will be able to influence others as well. In this way, more and more people will join the study program until the entire world will be inundated with the study of Chassidus. Now that the new edition of Likutei Torah has been published, so that's why the Rebbe is saying this, because Likutei Torah, the other version, was now published in 1965. He says, I want this to be made available to everybody. And the Rebbe added with a smile, I will speak to my treasurer. He says a reference to Reb Chaim Mordechai Isaac Chadakov, and instruct him to sell the Sfarim at a subsidized price, less than the cost of their printing, so that everybody will be able to purchase it. Thus, it all depends on one's desire. The desire exists by every Jew, but it is sometimes necessary to uncover hidden desires. We will conclude by turning to the importance of the Maimarim found in Likutei Torah. Now, until now, this is like, again, very segula energy, brachas. But now the Rebbe says something very deep in Chassidus itself. And this, I think, is one of the most revolutionary things I've ever seen. I feel like I'm wearing sunglasses, but it's not. My father-in-law, the Rebbe, this is the Frierdiker Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, related in the name of the previous Rebbeim that the Tzemach Tzedek chose these Maimarim, these Torah or Likutei Torah. He's the one who compiled them. He's the one who brought them to the printing press the first time in 1848, I believe. The Tzemach Tzedek, the third Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rebbe Menachem Mendel, chose these Maimarim from 2,000 Maimarim of his grandfather. So Tzemach Tzedek is the Alter Rebbe's grandson. Now, why were there exactly 2,000 Maimarim, not more, not less? Let me clarify. There's not 2,000 Maimarim in Likutei Torah, Torah Or. Likutei Torah, Or are gleanings from the 2,000 Maimarim that the Alter Rebbe himself said. So these are special from those 2,000 Maimarim. So now the Rebbe is asking, is this just an arbitrary, seemingly insignificant number? That this is like known in Chabad circles, that the Tzemach Tzedek from 2,000 Maimarim called the Maimarim of Likutei Torah, Torah Or this can be explained, why were there exactly 2,000, not more, not less? This can be explained in light of Chazal's teaching that the Torah preceded the creation of the world by Alpayim Shana. It says Torah precedes the world by 2,000 years. So the Rebbe asks, everybody should be thinking this, how is it possible to say such a thing? How can you say that years exist before the world exists? When does years come into existence? Only when there's a world. There's no such thing as time before a world. So before the world was created, there was no dimension of time. So how can we say that Torah preceded the world by 2,000 years? According to Chassidus, the statement is interpreted as follows. The word shana does not mean year. It has the iteration of the word shinui. In Hebrew means to change or a difference. The supremacy of the Torah over the world is measured by 2,000 levels, 2,000 differences, 2,000 changes within the chain reaction of Torah entering into reality. This is the significance of the 2,000 Maimarim from which the Maimarim of Likutei Torah were chosen. These Maimarim include 2,000 different levels of Pnimius HaTorah. Even though on the surface each Maimer seems to contain only the concepts of that Maimer, we can rely on the Tzemach Tzedek's testimony that the entire Pnimius HaTorah is hidden within the words of Likutei Torah. I'm saying that again. The entire Pnimius HaTorah, that means Zohar, Ramak, Arizal, Ramchal, whatever definition you have of Pnimius HaTorah, the inner dimension of Torah, Soid, Kabbalah, Chassidus, etc., are all hidden within the words of Likutei Torah. This is similar to the statement of the Talmud Yerushalmi that says that all the details of the whole Torah are included in the writing of the Luchos. So the Luchos have only 10 commandments, but there are 613. And there are, I think, 304, 805 letters in the whole entire Torah. So how can you tell me that the whole entire Torah is included in the Luchos? So even though one only saw 620 letters on the Aseres HaDibris, nevertheless, this was inclusive of the whole entire Torah. So too, even though you see only particular specific amount of letters in Torah or Likutei Torah, nevertheless, it is comprehending, it is containing the whole entire Pnimius HaTorah that exists. From this we can understand that when we will complete the study of all the Maimarim of Likutei Torah, which include all the concepts of Pnimius HaTorah, the promise of Mashiach will be fulfilled, that he will arrive when the teachings of Chassidus of the Baal Shem Tov have been spread throughout the world. May this take place very soon, B'Karim Mamash. This is the conclusion of that Sikha. Again, Parshas Vayakel 1965. The next week, so that was Vayakel. The next week is now Parshas Pekudei. And the Rebbe discussed the fact that Parshas Pekudei consists the siyum of the Sefer Shmois in Likutei Torah, and he then delivered a Maamer. After delivering this Maamer, the Rebbe instructed all those who completed the Maamer of Likutei Torah for that week to say L'chaim. So meaning, were you inspired by what I said last week? If you were, then you would have completed all the Maamer of Pekudei of Likutei Torah for this week, by this week, because that's what I'm telling you to do. So if you did that, say L'chaim. There's a special L'chaim for you. He then added that first those who donated money towards the publication of Likutei Torah should say L'chaim, as this will enable everyone to purchase it at a subsidized price. Without their generosity, who knows how much the Likutei Torah would have cost? A thick sefer. These donors, he remarks, displayed true Mesiras Nefesh, and he blessed them to give tzedakah gladly and to be successful in influencing others to observe Torah and mitzvahs. He likewise blessed them that Hashem should provide them with whatever they need, both physically and spiritually. And he gave a similar blessing to those who study and complete the Likutei Torah, as those who provided the money to sponsor those Sfarim. A little Yisachar Zvulun. The crowd began to sing, say L'chaim, sing a nigun. The Rebbe also said L'chaim, and he suddenly stood up and danced in his place for a very long time with great joy and enthusiasm. He called up everyone, including the elderly Hasidim, to join him and dance to celebrate the siyum of Sefer Shmois and Likutei Torah. So imagine, like a siyum masechta, everybody knows the idea of a siyum masechta. When you finish a complete tractate of Talmud, of Gemara, this is called a Yom Tov for Talmidei Chachamim. The idea of completing masechta is a very, very powerful thing, to the point that you can even alleviate the mourning laws in the 9 days, right? That you're able to eat meat and wine if you make a siyum masechta. So the Rebbe, like a person and a group who has an enthusiasm on the completion of siyum masechta, the Rebbe has the same enthusiasm over the siyum of the Likutei Torah, or the Torah or. And lastly, this was said in 1989, the most recent. He says many Hasidim adopted the custom of studying the Chassidish Parsha each week, mainly on Shabbos. In the winter, they studied Torah Or, and towards the end of the winter, they began studying Likutei Torah. Likutei Torah begins around March time. Some people adopted the practice of studying the Maimarim, at least superficially, with their families, including children of bar mitzvah age and even younger. Now, this is something I heard, I think, from Rabbi Sheiv's Taub, that there was a chassid who came to visit the Rebbe's father and mother in Ukraine, and he observed Rabbi Levi Yitzchak, sitting with what was then our Rebbe as a very young child, maybe around 3 or 4 years old, and the Likutei Torah was on his lap, and the Rebbe was sitting with him learning it. So he remarked that maybe this is meaning to say, where does the Rebbe get this idea of including children who are even younger than bar mitzvah? Because that's what his father did with him. Okay, L'chaim livracha. May Hashem bless us to have strength So without further ado, we're holding on page base, or does it Alef? Alef, Torah or Sefer Bereishis.
We'll start with Alef.
Alef. I know, right? You want to start with base? So this is unique in the sense that the first Maamer of Torah or does not begin with any pasuk from the word Bereishis. It doesn't even start with a pasuk from the Haftarah of Bereishis. Rather, this is not Hazinu. This is the Haftarah for Shabbos on Rosh Chodesh. Okay, which means to say that many years Shabbos Bereishis precedes Rosh Chodesh Cheshvan. So Rosh Chodesh Cheshvan will fall out on Sunday. So because it falls out on Sunday, or even on Shabbos, there's a different reading for that parsha, for the Haftarah, and this is where, I guess the Tzemach Tzedek compiled that this is how he begins the Sefer Bereishis. Now, perhaps we can say, you'll see the words. You'll see the words. He says that how do you begin anew? Bereishis is the beginning anew, but what's even before Bereishis? The Jewish people are compared to the moon. So therefore, he wants to emphasize that Rosh Chodesh, the newness of the month that we enter, there's a possibility, this is just from my head, that maybe Tishrei, you're still in the Bereishis, you're usually still laning in Tishrei, which is still like the heightened energy and spirituality of Tishrei. Whereas to really begin something anew, you have to start literally from non-existence, meaning to say Rosh Chodesh is where you can't even see the moon. And therefore, he wants to start with this Haftarah, the Haftarah that we lane on Parshas Bereishis if it falls out on Rosh Chodesh. So now, I'll give you a little bit of background. This Haftarah is the final chapter of the book of Yeshaya, which focuses on the final redemption. In advance of the reconstruction of the temple, it was crucial for Hashem to remind the people not to make the same mistake they had that had brought about its destruction. The mistaken notion that instead of the temple being the place through which God becomes manifest in our lives and in the world, it is the place to which he is confined. This is the theme of the first 4 verses of this prophecy. The behavior of people laboring under the misguided notion, this misguided notion is then contrasted with that of the truly righteous. Jerusalem's population with the redeemed exiles is likened to a woman giving birth. Only this birth will be instantaneous and painless. The joy of the birth will be followed by the rejuvenation of the redeemed exiles as Mother Jerusalem nurses them in order that they grow and develop. This is the imagery here. The redemption will be accompanied by the elimination of evil, the negative elements of reality. I have another idea just came to my head. 1 second. God will then summon foreign armies to kill off the recalcitrant Jewish sinners and then kill off most of them, these armies with a plague. Hopefully that won't happen. The non-Jewish survivors will then return to their home countries and transport the remaining Jewish survivors back. And these new refugees will join their compatriots in Yerushalayim and rebuild the temple. The highlight of this service will be the weekly and monthly celebration of the Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh offerings respectively, in which all humanity will join the Jewish people in praising Hashem. The remains of in order to ensure that the temple rites be forever observed in the spirit of which God intended. Okay, so this is Yeshaya Hanavi, chapter 66. I think it's the last chapter of Yeshaya, and it starts like this. Koyamar Hashem. Yeshaya conveys God's message, which begins with a description of the corruption that would lead to the destruction of the temple. And he says, HaShamayim Kisi, this is our Maamer, the heavens are my throne, Ve'ha'aretz hadaim raglai, and the earth is my footstool. Eize bayis asher tivnu li, ve'eize makom menuchasi. What house can you build for me that can be a place of my rest? My hand made all these, the heavens and the earth, and all these came into being by my word. So now I have you were mentioning, why not Bereishis? Maybe we'll say Bereishis bar likim is the creation of this physical world. But Pnimius HaTorah, Torah Or, wants to start off that this is a a pasuk describing the recreation of the future world, or the creation of the future world, meaning to say, not the exiled world, but the redeemed world. And that requires something new. We're not going to go to Bereishis, we're going to go to a prophecy speaking about the, maybe.
Rabbi,
Yes.
Rashi says that the Torah shouldn't start with, should start with Bereishis.
Right. Oh, very good. Very nice. Yeah. Yeah. Rashi says that. So therefore, maybe he's bringing that idea, the idea of the chiddush of the Jewish people that happens on Rosh Chodesh.
Wow.
Today was Rosh Chodesh, no? There you go. That's why we're learning this Maamer. Of course, everything is relevant. Okay, so that's our pasuk. We'll get back to the pasuk, God willing, a little bit later. So the Alter Rebbe asks, Lahavin eich shayach olav yizbarach loimer kisi v'adam raglai. Something that everybody should be asking, which is, how can we say about Hashem that he has a throne and he has a footstool? This is the concept called, in English, anthropomorphism, ascribing physical human terms to God or to anything spiritual or infinite. Okay? Right? Sharei ein lo dmus haguf. Axiomatically, we know that Hashem has no body or no design or image of a body. Ve'einu begeder makom. And he is not relegated to the constraints of space or physicality. As it says, Hine makom iti, as it says, behold, the place is with me. That means to say, he is the space of reality, but the reality is not his space. That means to say that he creates reality, he creates the space of the universe, the galaxies and whatever exists, and this is not only physical space, this is also spiritual space, but he is never relegated or limited by that space. So now, how can we ascribe to him physical features that he says, alas, right? Koyamar Hashem, HaShamayim Kisi, the heavens are my throne, va'aretz adem raglai, and the earth is my footstool. So we have to understand the adaptation to these concepts on a spiritual level. They must mean that it's not only it's not only just trying to adapt to human concepts, but rather Kabbalistically, spiritually speaking, there exists a motif, a paradigm within the higher realms called the imagery of a throne and the imagery of a footstool. Again, it's not an actual physical throne or footstool, but whatever we use a footstool or a throne as, Hashem is anthropomorphically sharing with us that he does the same thing. Now, how do we understand that? However, Lahavin ha'inyan, the idea is, to understand this idea, Kinei Torah hi min HaShamayim. We know that Torah is from heaven. That means to say Torah itself, the substance of Torah, the wisdom of Torah is not mortal. It's not human. As it says, Ki min HaShamayim dibarti. For from heaven I have spoken to you. That means to say that my speech is not physical human speech. It's heavenly speech. The material, the substantiality of this is spiritual. Dahainu shebichinas shamayim, which implies that Torah personifies the idea of heaven. What is heaven? We're not speaking about Gan Eden. We're not speaking about the sky. Rather, like Rashi brings, Shamayim is a conjugation of two terms. Shamayim can be spelled Shin Mem Yud Mem Shlos Mem, but also every single letter has a silent letter. So Shamayim, you could say, is Sa-mayim. Shin is also Shin Alef, Sin Alef, which means it carries water. What carries water? The heavens carry water. Or you flip around the letters, and Shin Alef, which means to carry, flip it around and you have Eish. Eish Mayim, fire water. That means to say the definition of heaven in some level is the fusion and the combination of fire and water. So whenever you say Shamayim, you're implying the idea of some type of synthesis or harmony between Eish, Mayim, fire and water. So again, we're going to unpackage this idea. So now, when we say that euphemistically, right, Shamayim is the conjugation, is the connection between fire and water, so to the Torah can be understood or can be related as heaven, because it says, from his right hand, a fiery law is expressed. So just like heaven has this idea of fire and water together, so to Torah is, so to speak, Hashem's heaven. That it has a combination of fire and water. V'hinei ksiv. So behold, it's written, Ushmartem es chukoisai v'asisam oisam. It says you should guard my statutes and you should perform them. So it says, don't read the words ve'asisam oisam, you should perform them. You should perform the statutes, you should perform the mitzvahs. Rather, ve'asisam atem. Not you should perform them, you, Jew, create them. Ve'asisam atem, you are creating them. You are creating the reality, you as your being are facilitating the reality that mitzvahs should even be. Okay? Atem ksiv. She'adam ha'oises ha'Torah. That on some level, it's the human being that actually creates the Torah itself. Okay? Now how can we say that a Jew creates the Torah? We just said that the Torah is non-human, is immortal. It's this divine spiritual wisdom. So do we request. We say this every day in Shachris, and we declare Hashem has loved us with an eternal love, lishmar velasos, to guard and to perform, ulekayem, and to fulfill. First it says to perform it, and then it says to fulfill it. What does that mean? How do we do that? Through our compassionate Father, Racham aleinu, have compassion on us. V'tein b'libeinu bina, and grant to our hearts understanding. Shemebechinas rachamim elyonim, that emitted from God's divine compassion, nimshach bina, it is now deposited in our psyches, this concept called bina. We're beseeching bina. What's bina? Bina, roughly translated as understanding, but it's something deeper. Ve'izboinenus, permit me to have meditation in my heart. Meaning, it's not that I am meditating. I'm beseeching Hashem, please grant me the gift of meditation. What's so powerful about meditation? Believe. Because through meditation and through the power of Bina, that's how we become human facilitators to bring Torah into creation. That means to say that Torah is missing something. Torah is yearning to be learned. And as long as Torah almost think of Torah as a human, and Torah is exhausted in its loneliness, and it needs us as Hashem's emissaries into creation to cause it to actually come into existence. V'hishavus haTorah, the actual creation of Torah. So Torah on an abstract level is almost like non-existing. And it requires the Jewish soul to be so inspired and to be so motivated that it actually causes the existence of Torah to come into creation, and that will then fulfill the whole entire purpose of creation. The Ketzatiyah Hizbanus, but a Jew has to be inspired. How do we inspire ourselves? How do we do this Hizbanus, this contemplation? Zumevur b'Kriyashma. It says in Kriyashma. First, we have to Shema. What is the idea of Shema? Shema doesn't only mean to hear. Meaning to say, if you properly say the words of Shema, and I'm not going to even say the word say, but utter and contemplate what Shema actually means, then you become a human conduit for the message of what Torah is meant to be brought to the world. Because Torah can't be brought to the world without the human. Now again, this is paradoxical because we just said that Torah itself is not human. So how is the human supposed to now digest something that's not human? We're going to get to that. But first we contemplate. What's the idea of Shema? Shema doesn't only mean to listen. When you say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, it doesn't mean to listen, Lashon Havana. It also means to understand. The Havana Zuhi B'Teva Shema. And the understanding of this is latent within the word Shema Atzma. If you analyze the word Shema, you have the whole entire power of contemplation to be able to bring Torah into creation. How? What's the power of Shema? Shema is a conjugation of two concepts. Shem, Ayin. Shem, Ayin. Literally, the name 70. Okay? What's the name 70? Okay, so first we're going to focus on 70. Ki Shema Shem Ayin. What's Ayin? Pirush. Ki Ayin Rabasi. And we know that in the Torah itself, what two letters are big in Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad? The Ayin and the Dalet. Why? Because when you say Shema, you are now testifying, a witness to Hashem being unified with creation. So it goes well with what we're saying here, right? It's almost like Hashem is, you can't say this, but Hashem or the Torah of Hashem is not existing until the Jew says Shema. The Jew saying Shema is the actual testimony of God's existence in creation. And we feel this, no? This is, huh?
So we're doing mitzvahs here.
But be deeper than mitzvahs. The Jew himself or herself personifies godliness in creation. Yeah.
The Torah is everywhere. It doesn't have to be necessarily in the text.
Right?
So isn't a Jew interacting with anything that speaks to their soul technically interacting with Torah?
Yes. Yes. However,
Studying something that they're passionate about?
yes. But again, at the end of the day, there is still some level of misoira of what Torah is and what Torah isn't. Here we're speaking about it, yes, more abstractly, that Torah is not only just the text of Torah, but rather it's the blueprint for creation itself. So can we tune in to the blueprint of creation itself to then cause creation to occur, to then cause creation to be a vessel for the Torah as we know it in the text? But it's a whole cycle. So let's see. So again, what's the meditation here? The idea is Shem Ayin. What's Ayin? Pirushke Ayin Rabasi. Why is the Ayin big? Why do you have a big Ayin? Because he bechinis lechashem agdula v'agvura v'chuli. Ayin is 70. 70 are the 7 emotional attributes as they are composed of the 10 within the 7. So again, Chachma, Bina, Das, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Yesod, Malchus. The 7 itself times 10 is 70. Okay? Zayin midas elyon Shem b'chinas lecha. To you, Hashem. That what? That all of the spiritual faculties of the 7 emotional attributes times 10 times the intellectual are all to Hashem. What does that mean? Dahainu Shem b'teilim alav v'nichlalim b'mikarim. That they are transparent to God's divine desire, and they are included within their source. That means to say that Hashem, just like He needed physical days called Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Shabbos, to allow the emergence of existence to come into being. Okay, those physical days are merely mirror reflections of spiritual energies, and those spiritual energies are the engine to the physicality of those days. So it's not Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It's Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, and because Chesed exists, that precipitates into our creation, and we know it as Sunday. And therefore, Sunday caused there to be light. And on Monday, it was the energy of Gvura, and Gvura then precipitates down into our world, which Hashem then divides between the heavenly waters and the earthly waters. And Tuesday is not Tuesday. Tuesday is Tiferes. And the energy of Tiferes is a synthesis between Chesed and Gvura, and therefore that's exactly what we have on Tuesday. What happened on Tuesday?
What happened on Tuesday?
Yeah? Right? That Hashem said it was good twice, because then the herbiage and the vegetation emerged from the concealment of what happened on Monday. So each day and its physicality and materiality is an offshoot and an expression of a spiritual energy or a spiritual faculty. To give just a little, maybe a trivial example, but it would be very, very unfair to judge a person's behavior just by the moment alone. Rather, we understand that our behavior, much of our day, much of our time, is dictated by our own personal experiences. So the fact that I was triggered or stimulated or upset or bothered or excited in a certain way, and another person wasn't, and yet we're behaving in the same way, is not because of the behavior itself. It's not about the action. It's about what's existing on a personal level. Can I feel my love? Can I feel the power of rigidity or constriction? Or can I feel the power of beauty? These are things that are not tangible in the physical world necessarily. The outcome of them are, but the emotions themselves, latent within our personalities, are really reflections of the same thing that Hashem did in terms of making these 7 faculties, and from that, the world being an offshoot of those 7 faculties. Does that make sense a little bit? Okay. So now he's saying, you may think that those 7 faculties are extremely powerful, and perhaps the idea that they have their own personality. Chesed is its own thing, Gvura is its own thing, Tiferes is its own thing. Nevertheless, What do we say? The pasuk says, "Lecha Hashem agdula v'agvura." To you, Hashem, is awesomeness, is might, is beauty, is kindness. What are we trying to say? That even the spiritual realms that are the roots and origins of the physical realms, there's nothing out of Hashem's purview. There's nothing out of Hashem's oneness. That they are nullified to Him and are transparent to His source. As long as they are contained within the source and root of godliness, they cannot be identified as their own personality traits. So similar to how the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, it's like the example of the ray of the sun as it's existing within the sun's orb. You cannot call that ray a ray. Rather, it's the orb of the sun. When does it become a ray? When it projects outside of the orb of the sun. Then it becomes a ray. So too, when does the person's personality, midos, express themselves? Specifically on the outside. So too Hashem, as He's creating these spiritual energies or images or faculties, as they are within the spiritual realms, they are one and united with Him. There's no division. And that's why it is a big ayin, a large ayin. Because it wants to show that those 70 faculties, again, 7 times 10, are nullified and subservient to the shame ayin. We're going to say the shame in a second. That these 70 faculties that are really the origins of creation, and we say this idea of 70 a lot. How many oxen were offered up on Sukkot? 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8 equals 70, representing the 70 nations of the world. There are 70 archangels dictating the energy of all the 70 nations. Right? There are 70 faces to the Torah. There's a lot of 70. What? Sanhedrin was 70? 70? Not 71 or 72? Okay, we're almost there.
70.
I was 70 and Moshe and Aaron, no? That's what you say. Okay.
70 in the address across the street.
Oh, he likes that. That's a whole nother parsha. That's yes. Okay. So meaning to say, so what's the large 70? That these 70 faculties, again, you're having chachma of chesed, bina of chesed, gvura of chesed, etc. Like Sfiras HaOmer, but just add the 3 cognitive faculties of chachma, bina, and das, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Those 70 are only and merely considered like a name. Meaning to say, as lofty and as powerful, that these 70 faculties are literally the engine and fabric of existence. They're the source of why our world and even the spiritual worlds are existing. Nevertheless, relative to Hashem's unity, relative to Hashem's power or oneness, they are like a name. Shem ayin. That's the meditation of Shema. Shem ayin. Why are we saying that? Because what is a name? Shem levad. Shehu ha'ara lebe'alma. A name is only a reflection, a refraction, a micro expression of the source, of the luminary. Maamer, as we say, right after we finish saying the word Shema, Baruch Shem Kvoid Malchus Le'lam. Blessed is the name of the glory of His kingdom forever and ever. Just say, blessed is Hashem. Baruch Ata Hashem. We say that. What's the idea of shame? Why are we so obsessed with Hashem's name? Don't say Hashem's name. So notwithstanding the power and the ineffable name of Hashem, nevertheless, we also want to emphasize that a name is only and merely a reflection of the true personality of every single person in this room. That's the whole idea of a name. And any object in existence. And this is why there's a very, very interesting sikha the Rebbe says about why Adam HaRishon had to name the animals. So it says Kabbalistically, when he named the animals, he injected their soul into them. And that's why it says also, it's very important for the women who know this, that when you have a girl, you have to name them right away. Because the body is waiting for the soul. The body is existing, and obviously it has a soul. But there's something unique about the naming of a child. And therefore, about a boy, it says that the child, until the bris, needs protection. There needs to be a shmira. You don't just... Yes?
So if a girl doesn't have a Hebrew name, what is that? What does that say? Like, I mean, what is that? Like, does her body have a soul? Like, what does that mean?
We say the body has a soul, but there's a different energy that's, so to speak, missing. That's why the Rebbe would emphasize very, very much. Please send me your name and your mother's name. Why? The Rebbe can't just daven for you. There's something unique about a name that is transmitted, and that energy is there. So now we're not saying that they're not living, but there is a certain power, energy, life force that's specific to you that the name transmits. It's funny. I was just speaking to somebody today that the Rebbe literally named people by dollars. So a girl came to the Rebbe and said, "My name is Jessica," and the Rebbe came up and said, "Yiska." Yiska, sorry, Menu's real name. Yiska, Jessica. My name's Jordan, Yarden. So, again, a lot of things. You'll say Joshua, Jeremy. You'll say Yirmiyahu, Yeshua. They may have a certain energy that is refracted or a diminishment of the power of their true name. But are they? And you see this with people also. People have to add names. People have to change names. We're very obsessed with the names. And again, there's credence to that, because there's a certain energy within the neshama there's a pathway, there's an avenue, there's a funnel that we're connecting to. Ve'ela shmois b'nei Yisrael, right? And these are the names of the children of Israel. Reuven, Shimon, Levi. Why do we have to say that? Just say these are the Jews that went down to Egypt. So there's something very, very magical about a name. The Arizal says that a person, when they name their child, has a prophetic vision of the full journey of what the soul needs in this world, and that's why you're naming him that. So you'll have people, they wanted to name the child in one name, and all of a sudden they had a dream or they had an epiphany, and I went with another name. How did that happen? There's something unique that is beyond your own rationale or understanding. It's prophetic. Prophecy means to say that the human condition of your brain, of your being, is not able to tolerate or withstand the immense level of godliness in this prophecy. And every single one of our parents had that.
So does that also apply when a parent names their kid like some English name, like Jessica, for example?
I don't know. You have to ask your local Kabbalist. I want to say, like, what?
You are my local Kabbalist.
Oh yeah, sucks for you. I don't know. People say that there's a power within having a Jewish name. Some people don't have Jewish names for years. Yeah, and then they're granted one, or they need to change one. How do we get into this? Because now we're saying, as powerful and as necessary and as fundamental as a name is, nevertheless, your existence cannot be only relegated to your name alone. So too, just like your existence, yes, your name is an expression of your existence, but at the end of the day, it's only an expression. It's not the true luminary of the soul. So too, if you're only meditating on the expressions, on the funnels, on the channels of Hashem's faculties and emotional paradigms, that's only and merely coming from Hashem's malchus, the lowest sphera, which that's the idea of Hashem's nobility and power of communication. As it says, your kingship is the kingship of all worlds. And what do we want to say about kingship? At the end of the day, a king is no king without a nation. But the intimacy between a king and his nation is very, very compromised. There is no intimacy. There's only distance. The only way, it says that a king cannot be a king on 1,000 children. 1,000 of his children, he can't be a king. Huh?
King can't be a friend with the...
Correct. So therefore, there is a distance within Malchus. So too, what's our Malchus? Malchus Peh. Our power of communication, our power of verbally articulating ourselves is very, very necessary. It's literally what our kingdom is called. We are not animals, my friends. We are humans. But particular to the human, it says, Veruach memalila, right? We are the speaking nation. We are the speaking kingdom. Let's talk about Jew and Gentile all together. The human kingdom is not the animal kingdom. And what distinguishes between the human kingdom and the animal kingdom versus the vegetative kingdom versus the inanimate kingdom is that the human kingdom speaks. And notwithstanding our power to speak, in which we are able to verbally articulate our ideas, as long as we are able to speak, there's a dissonance. There is something called lost in translation. I have no idea what you're saying right now. Maybe everybody in the room, like to me, yeah? And me and to myself, I said to the Alter Rebbe, I don't know what you're saying right now. So therefore, we call speech malchus. Why? Because on the one hand, that's where you show your kingship. That's where you show your nobility. When you start saying words of love, of affection, of connection, that's when you are, so to speak, crowning yourself. And this is within every single thing, right? We say a good salesman, he can sell ice to the Eskimos, yeah? Why? It's because he blinked his eyes. He's so good looking. Maybe Roy, yeah? But it's because he said something. He said something that triggered something, that stimulated something, that was so attractive, that was so connecting. But it was specifically through his speech. And nevertheless, it is only and merely the malchus of an individual. That means to say that there is so much more than that's just the speech alone. So too with Hashem, there's so much more than the power of communication or verbal articulation that Hashem did to create the world. That means to say that in creation of the world, Hashem creates the world, and then he creates a dissonance between him and the world. A distance between him and the world. And that's why we're frustrated. Because at the end of the day, we look at the world and we say, is God here or is God not here? At the end of the day, I'm trying to understand my friend, my spouse, my children, and I'm trying to understand what's happening in their heart, and they're trying to tell me, but I don't know what's going on. So on the one hand, yes, speech reveals, but on the other hand, simultaneously, speech conceals. On the one hand, Hashem created the universe through words, asar maimarim, through 10 utterances. On the other hand, he concealed himself from the universe, specifically by creating the universe. So therefore, the power of a yid, the power of a soul, has to circumvent the system of speech. Vezeu inyan bina. How do we do that? That's the power of bina. Bina doesn't only mean to understand. Bina is the power of deduction and analysis. What's deduction? Lahavin davar mitoich davar. It says bina as opposed to chachma. Chachma we can translate in more sophisticated terms as ingenuity. Okay? Chachma is creativity, imagination. We call it wisdom, but I'm just giving you different terms to understand chachma. When you say, wow, he's a chacham, that means to say he's wise. What's so wise about him? Because he got you out of your predicament. He or she, yeah, created a new avenue for you that you never could have thought of on your own. What's a maven? As opposed to a chacham, what's a maven?
Someone who's really involved in the intricacies of a particular Indian.
Correct. Meaning to say, he's the statistical manager, right? He knows how to analyze things based on analytics, based on something that's already existing. I'm going to tell you why to invest or why not to invest based on the findings or based on something that I already know. So Bina is the feminine energy and Chachma is the masculine energy. We say in the power of procreation, the male is inducing some type of new existence, the procreative seed that never was before, into what? And what does the female do? There's a power of gestation, a power of process, a power of development. So the 9 months is not creating something new, rather it's already taking some type of abstract being and now forming it into something. So the power and energy of deduction, of analysis, and of learning the process and details is a feminine energy. The power of ingenuity, of creation, of imagination, that's a masculine energy. That's not to say male or female. That means we all have these features, but it's more emphasized in the idea of feminine versus masculine. So now he says you have to be a little bit more men, you have to be a little bit more feminine, and females you have to embrace yourselves. Inyan bina. We have to tune into the faculty of bina. What's bina? To understand, to extrapolate one thing from the other. So like we said, just like the power of the feminine, that's exactly what it does, that it gestates and now it processes what it was already given and it develops it into something beautiful. So now he says it Kabbalistically. What does it mean, lahavin davar mitoich davar? So he says, toich means inner. Okay? I'm going to translate in English and I'm going to try and elaborate. Lahavin davar mitoich davar. To understand something from something. Okay? That's the literal translation. That's the figurative translation. The literal translation is lahavin davar, to understand something, mitoich, from the inside davar of something. In Hebrew, toich means inside. Okay?
Within.
So that means that there's something within something that I now have to extract and extrapolate and bring out. Okay? Toich davar, the inside, the inner something, nikra, is called Kabbalistically Memalik Almin. What's Memalik Almin? The power of Hashem's light that communicates the intricacies of creation, the specific details of creation. The hair color, the nails, the eyes, the nose, that's all the specifics. How things look, all of their features. And that energy of Memalik Almin, the permeating, specified, tailored light of God, is also known as Shehi B'chinas Shem, is also known as God's name. So again, that makes sense. Okay, when I go to a doctor's office and I say, "Doctor, can you help me?" Yeah. When I go and I see the firemen come and I see the policemen come and I'm calling them all these things. So who are they to me? Who are they to me? He's a doctor, and that's why he can heal me. But the doctor is just a name. It's just a feature. It's just a facet for the moment that I'm interacting that he has to give some type of medical wisdom. But is that who he is in his core? Is that his soul? He's so beyond that. So that's called mitoich davar. That's called the shame. That's called the Memalik Almin. This is called the energy of God that is relegated to the limitations and contours of earth, of space, of time. This is called the radiance of Hashem. Again, we're not dismissing the importance, but we are also saying that if you limit God to just what you see in the world, that's a limitation on Hashem himself. If you limit God to just being a creator, to a creation, then you're not tuning in to the truth of what Hashem really is. So again, it's the same thing. If I'm limiting the doctor to just his medical advice, and I don't see that there's a person here with all different emotions and all different issues and all different things, so that I'm only analyzing that he's just this, then you're missing a whole nother side of his personality. We have to understand. So we have to extrapolate from this that this is only and merely a glimmer alone. Shehu, and therefore, what is it a glimmer of? It's a light of a luminary. That Hashem in truth is really the enveloping, transcendent, I'll translate the word, subconscious energy of creation. Why do you go to the therapist? To tell them how you look? Or that they should analyze how you look? Or they should analyze what you can't see about yourself? You go to somebody to tell you, to help you see what you can't see. As long as you see what you could see, that's called the ziv, that's called the ha'ara, that's called the shame. What you know about yourself, that's called your name. What you don't know about yourself, that's called your essence. So Hashem is saying, what you see is truth, is reality, but that's not the full truth. That's not the emes la'mitoy. That's only toich davar. But I want you to lahavin davar mitoich davar. I want you to analyze creation and extrapolate from this ha'ara, from this glimmer, that there is actually something called Hashem that is beyond creator and therefore beyond creation. And this is called, again, in Kabbalistic terminology, soiviv kol almin, the encompassing subconscious energy of Hashem. V'leis machshava tfisa beklal. And no thought could grasp this whatsoever. That means to say, V'lav mikol midas ilim klal, that he is not limited or relegated to even the emotional frontier that he created. And through this analysis, through this contemplation, that again, this is all a very deep meditation that a Jew is having on a daily basis. I know everybody is comfortable and familiar with this.
That's my coffee.
Yeah? All of this will create and will spur within the soul to love Hashem with all your heart and to cleave to Him literally. To His infinite light. Because through this analysis, through this power of deduction, through tuning into the majesty of Bina, the feminine energy, that is looking at the world and saying, I see something, but that's not the full picture. Rather, there's something called the soul of creation, not just the body of creation. Therefore, this is going to evoke and stimulate an even deeper, more expressive love. Like it's written, David HaMelech says in Tehillim, Mili b'Shamayim, ve'imcha lechafatzti ba'aretz. Who is for me in the heavens, and with you I don't desire to be on earth. What does that mean? That means that he understands the full spectrum and details and complexity of creation. And he also understands the avenues and the pathways, we call them shvilin derakia, the pathways of heaven, the pathways of Gan Eden and Olam Haba, Gan Eden Atachten, Gan Eden Elyon, all of these spiritual abstract things. And he says, I don't even want to be with you there. Mili b'shamayim, who is for me in the heavens? Ve'imcha li chafatzti ba'aretz, and with you I don't desire to be on earth. I don't, why? Because David HaMelech says, even to be with you is not to be you. To be with you means that I'm still not subsumed by your existence, subsumed within your being. David HaMelech says, I want that the candle should not have its own autonomous existence. Rather, the candle has a home. It has a flame that it's actually able to cleave to. Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam means that the candle of God is the soul of man. That means to say that there's a luminary, there's a life force, there's a power that we all have to connect to that is beyond the conscious layers of ourself.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Why is it that would automatically lead to love?
Oh.
As opposed to like awesomeness or like fear or like.
Ahava has the same gematria as echad. When you love something, it's because you see a reflection of yourself in that thing. And therefore, that's what creates a oneness. The achdus, what are you doing here? What are we doing? Shema Yisrael Hashem echad ve'ahavta. When you analyze how one you are with God, you cannot help, the soul cannot help but be in love. So when I understand how one I am, with my spouse, with my brother, with my father, with whatever relationship you want to say, and every relationship has its own unique power or level of unity and oneness. But let's just say between a soul and Hashem. The issue with our world, and why the neshama is frustrated, is that it thinks, when it learns this, that this is not real, and what we see is real. So there's a frustration there. It's almost like a spiritual cognitive dissonance. You're telling me one thing, but I'm feeling something else. So we say, how does your feeling and how does your assessment of the world match? You have to think, you have to meditate. You have to go beyond the trappings of creation. So when a Jew says, Shema Yisrael Hashem echad, the Alter Rebbe is saying, I'm teaching you this meditation that because you understand how one you are with Hashem and how not one you are with creation. Creation is merely and only a reflection. It's a shame. It's only a conscious level, not a subconscious. Therefore, you'll come to love. The love is an expression of the unity. Nimshach liyes v'aftes v'nekacha mamish ledavka be'izbarach be'inso baruch hu mamish. That your whole entire desire and craving is that Hashem, not Hashem as He created creation, not Hashem as He plays the role of creator, i.e. in our example, the doctor, the lawyer, even dare I say the parent. Meaning to say, is your parent just your parent? That's the role they play? Or are they a human beyond the role of parent that you can connect to as well? We have to also go deeper within ourselves. We say our parents are not just parents, they're humans that happen to be the facilitators of our beings into creation. So I may have a lot of love, or I may have a lot of resentment. My father's in the room, so I can't say about myself, obviously. Yeah? But, so the same thing. Our daily, what Hashem's beseeching of us and what we beseech of our own soul is we have to transition from role to no role. Much of our life is learning what role to play to make myself feel comfortable in this situation. Okay? Now I'm the teacher, so now you have to act like the student. Now I'm the doctor, so now you have to act like the patient. And now I'm the mother. Now you have to act like the child. And the moment that we become a little bit uncomfortable because we don't know what role to play, because we're so obsessed with the ziv, with the consciousness, and we're not comfortable with the subconscious, so we're lost. So Hashem's saying to you, there's no need to be lost. I want you to unite with the deepest part of yourself. How do you tune in to the love with all your heart? Is by understanding that the unity between me and you is not limited to a role that I have to play. Now I have to play the role of God. So what does that mean? God created the world and God vivifies the world. Hashem is saying this is all just a role. This is all just your analysis of me. Rather, there's an unspeakable version of your soul and of godliness that you never met before. Yeah.
It's the whole thing, like God created the world and He's running the world and all of that.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just like that's the role that you're talking about.
Yes.
And it's like almost
Yes.
like
Bereishis bara Elokim es HaShamayim ves haaretz. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. That's God's role. Is that God?
So this whole thing of like living in this, I mean, this is, I'm just trying to wrap my head around it, and it's 11. So like,
You guys have long days?
so the thing of like we get, or let's say I get lost in this thing called life, and I'm so in the detail and like this thing or that thing, but really, there's like a whole thing beyond that I could take myself out of almost. Yeah.
Yes.
Would it be like,
Connect to just like
we're
the source
unlimited?
almost.
Ellie,
Or
This is. I wish you asked your question in 4 days from now or hours from now. No, I'm kidding. But on this page, that's exactly what he says. What you just said. When can we lose ourselves, but not lose ourselves that we don't exist anymore? Lose ourselves within ourselves, within our essence. The platform for that is a daily davening. Davening is literally the tefillah that you're asking Hashem. You're literally asking Hashem, Avinu Avarachaman. What is that? I sin. There's nothing to do with sin. Please have compassion that you be my psychologist, that you be my therapist, and give me deeper eyes to be able to not limit myself to what I think I am and what I think creation is. And when I do that, Lishmar, Velasquez, all of that will do. But what's the whole bracha called? Ahavas oilam aftanu. Baruch Hashem, oihev es amo Yisrael be'ahava. He who has loved the Jewish nation with love, right? I'm sorry. Yeah, he chooses the nation with love. So the love is this rekindling of the soul, but a part of your soul that you never met. Why did you never meet her? Because today's a new day. I'm davening new. Whatever, if I'm just going to limit myself to yesterday's meditation or davening, so I'm just going to meet the version of myself yesterday. The beauty of this moment right now, he's telling you that you're connecting your whole desire and cleaving and yearning is to connect to the Or Ein Sof Baruch Hu Atzmai, the infinite light of Hashem himself. That is not limited to the role that you limit him to creation, and is not even limited to the role that he limits himself to creation. That coming to the comfortable realization that power of Hashem's infinite light is literally dwelling in you. And because it's dwelling in you, it is your soul, it is your vivifying engine. That you're beseeching Hashem that now that I know that it is my soul, I want it to be revealed. I want that talent, that capability, that power is now revealed in me. How do you do this? Through all your heart. Like it's written, if you will place your heart and your spirit and your soul to him, Olav Yosef, to him you'll be gathered. For a spirit will evoke a spirit and draw down a spirit. What does that mean? What are we doing? This is very hard work. You guys thought this was the first time we're going to breeze through it. This is hard work. This is literally Chabad, Chochmah bin Das. You really, really need your mind to be very present. But if you do so, the spirit, the energy of the person is now excavating himself from the terrestrialness of the world, lemaila, up above all of those limitations, shiyasim alav. And now that you're now entering into the, so to speak, the divine womb or lap, that what will be awakened is a craving, a longing to cleave to Hashem, and to draw down a revelation of godliness upon his soul and within the soul. That means soivev and memale. Azai, what's going to happen? What does it mean? Liboy rucha v'nishmasoi. He says liboy is the ziv, is the analysis of the name, of the glimmer, of the refraction. Rucha v'nishmasoi mibichinas soiv kol almin. There are higher versions of self, higher levels of consciousness. I'll translate in English as subconscious. That is now going to be gleaned from this meditation. That Hashem is going to give you this epiphany of self, a renewed version of self, because now you're entering into a renewed perspective on what Hashem is, what godliness is. Alef Yosef, to him you'll be gathered. That there will be a gathering within one's midst, within one's heart. And we say, what does gathering also mean? What happens when you see the whole movie and not just a few frames? There's a seamless thread between each frame that now makes sense. Oh, that's why the beginning of the movie started like this and that and the other. So too, Soiviv Kol Almin, let's translate a bit better. Memala Kol Almin is I'm living in the here and the now, in this very moment. And that's a very powerful thing and a very, very necessary thing. Soiviv Kol Almin is that I'm able to see every moment of past, present, and possibly even future, and why everything happened to me. That's Soiviv. That's understanding that every single moment was Ashkacha Pratis. Not just this moment right now that I'm existing and alive. For that takes deeper eyes. Because we live with a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, a lot of anxiety, a lot of all the things that we don't like. So there's a certain sense of deflection of all those things. We don't want those emotions to be stimulated, to come up. He says the Soiviv Kol Almin is called Alef Yosef. It's a pasuk. It says, to him I'll be gathered. What does it mean, I'll be gathered? You're gathering all of your fragmentations of your own personal life. All of the moments of your life that you thought that you didn't really want are now gathered and collected. That's literally what Shema means. Shema doesn't only mean to listen or to hear or to understand. Shema, it says, Vayishma Shaul, and Shaul gathered. He collected. So spiritually speaking, what are you doing when you're saying Shema? You're collecting all of the broken pieces of self of your whole entire life, and you're saying every single one of them was a refraction of Hashem's godliness, of Hashem's Soiviv Kol Almin. And that's why I love you. And that's why I'm obsessed with you. Because now I see that every moment of what I perceived as fractured, as fragmented, as divided, was really a seamless oneness. And I look at that, I'm like, wow, b'chol levavcha, with all your heart. It's interesting, what does Rashi say, b'chol levavcha? B'shnei yetzarecha. The parts of yourself that you don't like and the parts of yourself that you like. Shnei yetzarecha is your two inclinations. The negative inclination says, no, that's horrible. That's the stupidest thing that ever happened to you. The good inclination is trying to convince him. But if we do the meditation properly and we understand the power of Shema, that we're able to gather, now we understand why b'chol levavcha, even the Yetzer Hara, even the negative forces will be forced to say what? You're right, I acquiesce. Every single moment of your life was literally a compartmentalization of Hashem's desire for you. And now you're gathering that back, you're collecting that back, you're collecting that spark back, and you're redeeming it from its lostness. Yeah.
Basically hearing your own song.
Yeah?
When I was first introduced to Shema in my life, I was already an adult, and my Rebbe told us in a small chabura that Shema is like hearing, and hearing has to do with sound, and sound can only be experienced through time, because there's a duration of time that needs to elapse for a sound to occur.
Mm-hmm.
And so when our experience in this realm, in this universe, is based on time, and so as opposed to light, which is seeing, it doesn't say like, see Israel, the Lord is one,
right.
God is one.
It says here.
It says here,
yeah.
Because it has to be like in this realm, in this fragmented reality of there being a past, a present, and a future, time elapsing 20 years of one's life, 40, 80, 100, 120, only then through the elapsing of time can you put it all together and see the unity of all of it by zooming out. And then that's what you were talking about, the Soviv Kol Almin. It's like the withdrawing from the specifics. That's beautiful. Basically, like Shema has to do with like sound, which is like has to do with time elapsing, and time can only elapse when something happens and then it stops, and a new thing happens and stops, and there's this and there's that, and there's multiplicity. The amazing thing, my father said, it's the music, right?
We have in music itself, you have the same thing. You're the DJ, you know, right? Where does the magic happen? Dafka, when you stop it for 1 second,
Right.
and then you restart it, right? Meaning to say, it's what is it? The blankness within the notes, the space between the notes, the space between the notes. Yeah, in a sense, it's the vision that is ongoing, right? Meaning we blink, that allows us to like kind of renew the moment. But at the end of the day, it's vision is like overwhelming. Dafka Shema Yisrael, it's much harder to hear and understand than just to see. I'd rather see the movie, right? Not hear the book. But that's the avodah. The avodah is specifically from within. There's a much more personalness in hearing. You have to pay much more attention when you have to hear. When you see something, that's what we know. YouTube is a very, very powerful force. You can't stop. But hearing is like, okay, I can't learn this right now. I have to be very present to be able to learn this, right? The learning is from the Shmiya. But again, that's the power of Bechol Levavcha. When you do the Shema properly, that's the Bechol Levavcha. Beautiful.
I was learning from First Kriya Shema and Rambam, and I'm pretty sure the first line of Rambam, Shema, you have to say out loud, which is like just interesting. Like your heart has to hear you say those words. Like it has to be like, whereas the rest of Albany, you don't have to hear it.
Right.
This you have to hear.
Right.
You have to hear yourself say that.
Dafka Shemana, and Dafka Shemana Esrei is yeah. Right?
Would you say like the Shema meditation is like almost like imagining like whatever a divine hug is for you? Like I'm thinking like encompassing my hearts, not just like, because there's both. It's like with my hearts, but then like what you were saying is like there's like an encompassing is like a container. Almost.
Yeah. I don't, to use the word hug is it's nice, but I think we're going. Yeah, this is what I'm imagining is the flame meets the flame. There's no hug anymore. Hug means to say the two people are now combining and they're showing each other love. The flame meets the flame means there was no distinction anymore,
right.
And there was never distinction. The distinction was only because I needed my wick to be held on to. But once I connect them back together, there is no two. There's just one.
You're saying kind of like the ray in the sun.
Correct.
Okay. So then, because I feel like flame to flame is almost like in my head it like resonates as like God forbid equal to Hashem, of like a flame and a flame, whereas if I picture it as like my ray going back in the sun and the sun is the container.
I don't know. Maybe there's other Hasidic rabbis that would literally say, yeah, we are equal.
Right.
I don't know if we're saying that here, but okay, maybe both. Could be, we said Shivim Panim LaTorah.
Because we're a piece of a Chalik.
Yeah. So you want to tap back into it. Yeah, 100%.
But then,
Huh?
It's the time we become one.
Right? Tefillah, right? Naftuli niftalti, right? I'm now joining back to what was we say it's two pieces that became fractured from each other, and now you're binding them back together. That's literally what tefillah means. Let's see. Azay ruchay v'nishmasay mi b'chines toiv v'kol almin olav yasav liyas mis asiv asher asay yetzle b'kedav ish v'lei vamek umizen nimshach liyas v'ayu advar ma'ila asher anoichi. Now again, he's methodically going through. He started off with avasay lamav tanu. No bina. What's the word? No, but before. Right? He's methodically, very, very calculatedly going through each one, saying that it's a different facet. Every single word of Shema and Birchas Kriya Shema is a build-up to try and get to this ability to see your life not as fragmented pieces, but rather as one whole that's going to the subconscious, not only the conscious. That's not limiting it to the shame, ayin. The 70 faculties, the 70 emotional attributes that are merely and only a shame, they're merely only a glimmer, a reflection, a name. This will then evoke this power of soivev, this subconscious strata of the soul. From this, it will inspire us once I know, once I'm in love. Now I want to fulfill what the beloved demands of me, or what I feel is necessary to give credence and approval to the relationship. So it says, these are the words, Asher Anochi, which I've commanded you today. Where is the command coming from? So we know in Chassidus we translate mitzvah as not only command, but connection. Where is the connection coming from? Anoichi. Anoichi is reflective of this idea of essence. It's not the names of Hashem. It's not coming from Hashem and Adnai and Elikim and Havaya and Yudke and Ekye. Anoichi is Ana Nafshi Ksavis Yahavis. I, my essence, wrote it and gave it. That means to say that I want that the connection that I'm causing you to create in reality is coming from my deepest place. It's not coming from a refraction. It's not coming from an expression. Back to the beginning. From this revelation of godliness and this overwhelming level of love that the soul feels, now we're able to create the Torah. We, in our humanness, we, in our own power of existence, are now able to create what Hashem wants, what we call Torah. The idea of heaven, Eshumayim, which again we said is a conjugation between fire and water, or a synthesis between fire and water. Kihine, look what we quote. We quote what the Rebbe quotes in one of the sichas we learned. HaTorah kadma alpayim shana leila. Torah preceded the world by 2,000 years. Right now we know the interpretation, but here he gives another interpretation. What does it mean that Torah preceded the world by 2,000 years? Pirush oilam nikra b'chinas eshumayim. The world is also identified with Shamayim. Meaning to say, when we say Hashem created heaven and earth, that's not only referring to the spiritual cosmos and the earthly beings. It's speaking about any version or expression of godliness post-Tzimtzum, post-primordial withdrawing of light. So he says, in order to create this concealment, this is all known as Shamayim, which again is the synthesis between fire and water. So we're saying that Torah precedes not Oilam, the world, it precedes the concealment. Oilam is the same letters as Ha'elem. Ha'elem in Hebrew means to conceal, to hide something. So it's saying that the Torah preceded the concealment of creation by 2,000 years. And therefore we're saying that Torah precedes the world by 2,000 years. That means to say that we cannot limit Torah to the information that it's teaching us. Meaning to say, how can you say that you should put on tefillin? In order to put on tefillin, you need a cow, right? To have that leather. How can you say to put on tzitzis? You need that sheep to put. So all of a sudden you're telling me that Torah exists on a frontier that is higher than what I know existence to be? He's saying yes. There is no cow, there is no sheep. There's different motifs, different paradigms of spiritual energy that then precipitate into our world once the world is existing, and now we interpret Torah as it is. And that's the power of Kabbalah. That's the necessity of Soid. We spoke about this once before, right? Pardes, Pshat, Remez, Drush, Soid, Pardes, right? Is the four variations of how to interpret Torah study. The simple interpretation, the homiletic interpretation, and the mystical interpretation. So Pshat, Remez, Drush has the same letters as Pirud. Pirud means to divide, to separate. Pardes means an orchard. Samech is the soid. As long as you divide the soid from the Pshat, Remez, Drush, the Torah itself is divided. Because that's like we said before, that's like you analyzing my behavior without trying to learn about my emotions, without trying to learn about my history, without trying to learn of where I came from, who his parents are. You're dividing the Torah itself. So you need the underpinnings, right? The foundation, the Kabbalah, the Soid, right? Of Torah itself to then allow you to see why Torah is so in the Pshat and the Remez and the Drush. We also said, how do you say, in Yiddish you say, right, a ferd, yeah? But pered in Hebrew means a mule. A mule is the combination of a donkey and a horse that is sterile. It cannot reproduce or recreate. So to Pshat, Remez, Drush without the Soid, it's pered. There's pirud there. There's division. There's dissonance, and there's a lack of connection to its Soid, to its foundation, and it therefore can't continue.
Pirud means
The Vilna Gaon says, I think it's in Pirush on Mishlei, that a person is not able to psak a halacha unless he learns mysticism. He has to know the soid. He has to know the mystical dimension, the mystical realm, in order to understand why people are behaving that way and why he is able to psach this way or that way. Yeah.
The Vilna Gaon, who was his Rebbe? He wasn't down with Chassidus, right? Mystical?
This is beyond the scope of our class.
Wait, is this a wrong day to talk about that?
No. I'm saying that notwithstanding his antagonism to the Hasidic movement, he himself was a mystic. He has a whole pirush on Sefer Yetzirah. Incredible.
Political his
Yeah. I mean, it didn't deny the fact that Kabbalah was replete in the
He was learning Zohar too, right?
of course, meaning to say it's part of Yiddishkeit.
What about before Chassidus?
So one second. So the history is another dimension. If you want me to go history, we won't get to where we want to get to.
My question is
Yeah.
more like was there something
Oh, before Chassidus, you said? That's the side. You have the Arizal, the Ramak, the Zoyar.
No, but what about before that? Like before the Zohar was written?
So I'll ask you the same thing. What the Rebbe would always say. What about before Mishnah? What about before Mishnah?
used to hide it.
Meaning to say, at some point, Mishnah didn't exist, and at some point, even Torah didn't exist, right? Meaning to say, you have so the Rebbe will always say what. Avram, right? Avram versus, meaning to say, it says that Avram kept the whole entire Torah. Which Torah did he keep? There was no Torah that was given that he should keep. So we say that they kept it in a spiritual way, but it didn't impact and affect the physicality of the world.
Would you say that Mishnah and Zohar, these are just different elements of revelation of the Torah? Before they were revealed, they existed, they just weren't as revealed.
Correct, 100%. And again, what are we talking about even now? This is a good conversation for even now. We're saying that the Torah precedes creation by 2,000 years. Which means, how do we even understand that? Now we understand. Just like Mishnah. So we say, oh, here, open up the Mishnah. There was no such thing before Rabbi Yehuda Anasi to say, open up the Mishnah. There was no such thing before Rabbi Asi and who's the other one? Rav Ashi and Rav Asi before the Talmud, right? And then you have the Goinim and Shulchan Aruch. What's Shulchan Aruch? Shulchan Aruch Joseph Kairos only 600, 500 years ago. Meaning to say, it all exists. And by the way, you can even adapt it to the physicality of a human being, him or herself. Meaning to say, are you the same person as you are at 100, as you are at 0? Yes or no?
In behavior or in essence?
One or the other. Meaning to say, obviously
yes
not,
no.
but absolutely yes. Meaning latent within me being a fetus even, right? Latent within me being a 2-year-old, I have the whole entire spectrum of my personal, the opposite of history, my personal future right there, right now. What's the difference? Can I see it or not? So the same thing. Alpayim Shana L'Olam means to say, Torah obviously is part and parcel. If God exists, Torah also exists. Now, I don't want to blow too many minds right now, but the Yid also exists. Because the Zohar says, Yisrael, ve'oraisa, v'kutchabrichu kulachad. So if you have to say that Torah existed 2,000 years prior to creation, and now we're understanding that creation is only a concealment of the various differentiations of Torah's expression, so too our souls was within the container of essentiality of God prior to creation as well. So that's why the Alter Rebbe says you can never divide the 3 loves. The love of Torah, and the love of Hashem, and the love of a Jew. And even more so. The love of Torah doesn't necessarily mean you love God and you love a Jew. I love wisdom, I love understanding, I love knowledge, I love the analysis, I love the back and forth, I love Chassidus, I love Gemara. But I'm not observant. I don't do any of the things. I just learn. God, I love Hashem, right? Leave me alone with your tefillin, right? Excuse me, are you Jewish? You want to put, no, I love God, right? I do it in my own way, right? You're the Jew with, cardiac issues. Everything is within the heart. Nothing's expressed. So I love Hashem. Torah, it's just a bunch of rules. Jews, they really piss me off. Then you have, I love the Jew. The Alter Rebbe says, if you love the Jew, automatically you love Torah and Hashem. Because within the essence of loving a Yid, you have the whole essence of God and of Torah itself.
Can you love a Jew and not love
Yes, you could, on your conscious level for sure. I love Jews, but a person could say, I don't learn Torah and I don't love Hashem. But Hashem will say, I love the fact that you don't love me, at least you love a Yid.
But really, it's,
You can't say that about Torah and Hashem.
the only reason you want a Jew is because a Jew. What makes a Jew? Torah and Hashem.
For sure, it's all part and parcel of the other. But the Alter was saying as an expression of the soul, a person can say, "Let me focus on the other loves," but by definition, you're lacking in the love of the other. But if you have the Jew, automatically it's impossible that it won't come to loving some semblance of Torah and some semblance of God, because it's part and parcel of each other. Huh? Right?
We're talking about how the Yid like existed prior to creation. Has the neshama, have our neshamas always existed? Like the way that, neshama is a neshama will always exist.
That's a great question.
Is it also, like,
That's beyond the scope of my knowledge to answer that, because we say about the Alter Rebbe's neshama that he was a neshama chadasha, which means to say that he was not within. I don't even know what I'm telling you right now, but I'm just telling you, he was not within the container of Adam Arishan's soul when Adam made the Chet Eitz Hadas.
What is it considered?
Huh? Where was he?
No, everyone else was. We're all from
Yes, meaning to say in some iteration, where I'm getting my information from, that's for the scholars to analyze and to.
There were other neshamas too, right?
I imagine so, but I don't know. I know of the Alter Rebbe, and we're learning his Maamer. It's exciting.
So did he have nothing to do with the sin?
Meaning to say he wasn't within Adam's being, whatever that means, at the moment of that, and therefore he comes to the world in some type of unscathed. There was no, I just said it's up to the scholars to find the source of what I'm saying. I say things. It's your job to look it up. By the way, it's not Shabbos anymore. You can chat GBT the whole thing and tell me I'm wrong, and we'll fabring.
I remember also.
Who else is born like that? Like, is there like a list of people?
Yeah.
I'm sure there is possibly, but at this very moment I'm.
Chaim Talmud says that every generation there's a couple people like this.
There you go. See, we have scholars in the room. Baruch Hashem. Maybe the Arizal, maybe the Rashbi, but that's just this. I don't know that for fact. Maybe the Arizal, maybe the Rashbi. We already know Moshe Rabbeinu is a Gilgul of Hevel, and Moshe Rabbeinu is a Gilgul of Noach.
This is what you said.
Chaim tells us Hevel also.
Yes, you're right. He's right also.
Really? He's a Google of Naya?
Yeah. You remember that, Kalman?
From your speech.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. No. If anybody wanted to come to a Parshas shir, so I'm gonna interrupt 1 second, even though we have 10 more years of this Maamer, but I'm gonna say that where do we see the association between this is from Levi Yitzhak Berditchev, I think quoting maybe the Arizal. Levi Yitzhak Berditchev says that Moshe Rabbeinu is a Gilgul of Noach, and what is the purpose of a Gilgul is to remedy and heal and rectify the previous fault or lacking of your predecessor. So Noach builds a teva and saves who?
His family and himself.
Only his family and himself. Moshe saves the Jewish people by pleading to Hashem that what? Hashem says, I'm going to make from you a nation. And the response that Moshe Rabbeinu says is, Mecheini na misifrecha asher kasafta, erase me from your book which you've written. The Arizal says, Reb Levi Yitzchak Berditchev says, Mecheini na misifrecha, please erase me from your book. Mecheini is the same letters as Mei Noach. Mei Noach. The waters of Noach, Mecheini na misifrecha, please remember the Mei Noach. Remember the waters of Noach, that he didn't save the generation, and I am going. We're actually going to mention a piece from Moshe Rabbeinu. So Hashgacha Pratis, if we get to it, it says here Leich Reid, right? Hashem says go down, go descend, because it says you can't divide the feet from the head. So maybe Hashgacha that I'm saying this word, but the idea is that this is the tikkun of Noach, that Mecheini, same letters as Mei Noach, that in his, so to speak, oneness with the Jewish people, in his love for the Jewish people, by saying, Hashem, there's no way that I'm going, if I'm the captain of the ship, I go down with the ship. Not so with Noach, that he remedies and heals whatever Noach was missing. Okay. Let's move a little bit. Kihine atoyre kadma alpaim shana leilam. Pirush oilam nikra b'chinas eshumayim. The world is a synthesis between fire and water. V'atoyre gava ma'ilasa me'oy. And the Torah is higher than fire and water. Higher than the physicality of creation. B'chinas alpaim shana, in a manner of 2,000 years. Shem lamaylam b'chinas oilam. That is higher than the world. Okay, they shem tim shachal b'chinas oilam. But how do we, if Torah is now, we understand what Torah is, that it's beyond creation. But what's the purpose of creation? To now bring the infinite and bridge the infinite and the finite. Good. So that means to say that we have to now be the shadchanim. I just triggered everybody in the room. I'm sorry. Okay. What do we say shadchan stands for?
Shade.
No?
Shotgun?
Shadchan. Sheker doiver kesev noitel. I'll translate it for the English speakers. Sheker doiver, the speaker of untruths, the speaker of lies. Kesev noitel, the grasper of money. That's shadchan. Sheker doiver kesev noitel. It's meant to be that way. It's meant to be that way. You have to ask you. No. So we are the shadchanim that are meant to bridge the gap between infinite and finite. Meaning to say, like we said, Torah itself is yearning to be learned. Torah itself is missing, is feeling a sense of loneliness in its abstraction, in its infinity. So it needs the infiniteness of the Jew to now recognize its infinity and bring it down into finitude, bring it down into our playground. So what do? We have to now bring it down and integrate it into a realm of fire and water. And how do we do that? These are the 248 positive commandments. Shemiyamin, that are stemming from the right side. And then the 365 negative commandments from the left side. So again, there's no right and left. This is anthropomorphic. The idea of ascribing human conditions to the divine. And so therefore we are associating positivity and the right side energy with chesed. And then the restriction, the power of discipline or self-control with left side. The awakening of this desire to bring and bridge the gap between infinite and finite is specifically through motivating ourselves in loving Hashem in Shema. It's all connected. Meaning we ourselves are concealed from our own understanding of who we are prior to prayer. And davening itself awakens this love and also this need or responsibility that I have a job to do in the world. But I can't do it unless I'm reminded. So Hashem says, I want to remind you, and I want you to remind yourself every day that when you come to loving me, ruach aisi ruach ve'amshich ruach, a spirit from below awakens a spirit from above and draws it down. Through this you'll speak into them. That means to say that the Torah will now be able to speak within the souls of the human beings. V'dibarta, speech is not just speech. What does it mean, v'dibarta bam? The word dibur, v'dibarta loshin hanhaga, doesn't only mean to speak, but it also means to lead. V'amshacha, and to draw forth. That the Jew's job in creation is to inject, it's to imbue the infiniteness of the infinite light of Hashem into the Torah. And that's why we have this pasuk so many times. What do we say so many times? Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe. It doesn't just mean that God spoke to Moshe. Rather, Shamshachas Havai Elias HaTorah Tzarech Elias Hamshachat Tchila B'Mchinas Moshe. Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe doesn't only mean God spoke to Moshe. Rather, it means and Moshe caused God to be led to and to be injected and to be induced into Torah. That means to say that Moshe, i.e. the tzaddik, brings godliness into mortality, brings infinity into the finite. It's specifically Moshe Rabbeinu that needs to be the harbinger of energy, of godly energy into the finite world. Why? Why Dafka Moshe? Because Moshe comes from the world of Toyu. Minamai Mishisiu literally means, this is a whole nother Maamer, and I'm going to save it for the Maamer in Parshas Shmois, but these words you can elaborate on for hours. But Moshe's name literally means to draw. Okay? And the drawing is that Batya drew him from the water. What waters are we talking about? We're not just talking about the Nile River's waters. Bereishis bara Elokim es HaShamayim v'ha'aretz, v'ha'aretz haisa soyu v'avoyu v'choshech al pnei tehoim v'ruach Elokim merachefes al pnei Oh. So that mayim, the primordial waters, we're not talking about water, physical water. We're talking about the primordial waters of creation that were on a level of toyu. Toyu literally means bewilderment, chaos. So that's not just chaos, physical chaos, like the I don't say atheists, agnostics, whatever, but the evolutionists believe that there's just this primordial soup and Hashem. No, we're talking about the chaotic light, the chaotic energy that precedes our orderliness of creation. And when Batya is drawing forth Moshe's body, it's also the idea of that Moshe's soul is now being drawn forth from those waters of Toyu. And therefore, you need an insane person to make you learn Torah. Insane, not normal. Insane means to say he comes from a space that is not limited to time and space. He comes from an energy of God that is Toyu, not Tikkun. And it's specifically Moshe that is bridging the gap between the infinite and finite, because his being is infinite, but he's also meant to transmit that infinite into the finite. That infinite, in Kabbalistic terms, is called Tohu. And he now needs to cause the absorption and digestion of those lights into the world of Tikkun. And that's called the Jewish people. That's been Hamayim Mishisiyu.
That's why he stuttered.
Yeah, very good. That's what the Maamer speaks about. The stuttering of Moshe Rabbeinu is because I cannot compute the divinity of where I come from. I cannot relay the power of who my soul is. It's too awesome. So what happens when you can't contain your emotion? What happens when you can't contain the revelation? So I don't know how to communicate. So you need Aaron. But that's not a fault. That's a virtue. His virtue is specifically, what does stutter mean? Stutter means that I can't really connect the wisdom, the infinite wisdom with the finite. So Hashem, and that's, by the way, okay, I'm already giving the Maamer away. That's in 5 years from now. But that's the whole back and forth of Moshe and Hashem. That's the argument. Why are they arguing? If Moshe is so bittul, if Moshe is so one with Hashem, so Hashem says, please go take the Jewish people out. And he goes and takes the Jewish people out. Back and forth, I'm not a man of words, and I tell my brother, and shlach nabiyat tishlach, just send Mashiach already. Why? It's because he's rationalizing, Hashem, how can you identify me as a soul of Toyu, and yet tell me to now bring a Torah, which is an Inyan of Tikkun? Doesn't make sense. I'm not trying to contradict you. You're contradicting yourself. Because if my being is so wild, is so chaotic, then how can I now bring vessels to that energy of chaos? Okay, it's another, again, I know it's an amazing concept, but let's just keep going a little bit. That's the idea of Vaidaber Hashem el Moshe. Not that Hashem's speaking to Moshe. Moshe is causing Hashem to now be imbued and injected into creation. Vezeu, and that's the meaning of our Maamer. HaShamayim Kisi. We said, what is the heavens? The heavens is a euphemism for Torah. What is a throne? What are we all doing right now? We're sitting. HaShamayim Kisi, HaShamayim hi Torah. We said that the heavens is a euphemism for Torah, and therefore the Torah itself is a throne, a chair. Harayu Kisei al derech mashal. What does it do? Shenasa lasheves. That it is the platform, the object to be able to sit. The yeshiva zu, and this sitting, again, everything you have to get a little bit abstract and mystical. Sitting on a mystical level means hi ashpala legabe amida. This is the idea of a lowering relative to standing up. So being stood up in an erect position versus sitting down and crouching, or now being in my posture is now compromised. This is not my full bloom. This is I'm sitting. So that's exactly what Hashem said He wanted to do, and that's why He needs Moshe Rabbeinu. When a person stands, when a person is standing, he is a full structure, and his head and his brain are standing aloft from the earth. What happens when you sit? You're now causing the moyach You're now causing your brain and the higher intellectual powers and cognitive powers of the self to now become lowered. What do? How do you communicate properly to a child? You have to lower, right? You have to. Why are we all sitting now? We have to be face to face. How am I face to face? So now Hashem says, HaShamayim Kisi. What is the Torah? The Torah is the vessel that facilitates my infinite self to now sit, to now withdraw down and become comfortable within reality, within earth. So to the Torah, whatever the Torah is, meaning not only the text, like you were saying, whatever the Torah is on this mystical level becomes the throne for the infinite light of Hashem, for Hashem's mind, for Hashem's wisdom. That's His will and desire and wisdom. Like Eliyahu Hanavi says, you are wise, but with an unfathomable wisdom. The Torah now becomes the facilitator to now express the unfathomable wisdom of Hashem, like a throne that is now going to cause the lowering and coming down of the erect posture of the individual. This is the power of Torah, that it causes the lowering, the descending of the infinite, abstract, chaotic wisdom of Hashem and puts it into the vessels of Chochmah and Bina, b'dvarim gashmim. And what does it talk about? Kitfilin, utzitzis, utzdaka, utrumais, umaisers, v'karbanis chuli. All of those physical features that we get so bored of by Torah are all, me, so I'm not saying you guys, yeah? But we're like, this is Torah? You start learning this with a Jew and you're like, oh, Torah is the best. Let's learn about Truma. I don't know if he's going to come back to the class, yeah? I don't know, okay? Let's learn about Karbanis. That's for sure, because at least Truma you can maybe give, but Karbanis is... But at the end of the day, when you understand that all of these are the physical fingers of how to draw the body and actually embrace, like the Alter Rebbe says in chapter 4 and 5 of Tanya, that when you're hugging the king with 1,000 garments, it doesn't matter the difference between one garment and 1,000 garments. It's all the same. There's still the divine embrace. So too, the physical features of an individual are the avenues to now cause the spiritual or Ein Sof reality to now come down into this world. All right.
It's like Saturday at 1:15.
You guys tell me if you want to.
We just finished that first part.
I think there's only one fair way to do this. Please raise your hand if you want him to stop.
Oh, okay. You okay? Okay. We just finished that. Yeah.
See, that worked out beautiful.
I would love to continue. If you guys need to go, there's a live feed and there's a recording.
It's still going, right?
I hope. Yeah. Let's keep going. You have a good crew. Yalla.
I gotta go, but
Okay.
keep going.
You're saying how much battery is left?
You're saying like that.
Okay, until we stop. I think we have unconditional. Okay. The continuation of the pasuk. We're learning Torah, or the first Maamer. The continuation. Of course. Baruch Hashem. Thank you for coming.
Keep going.
By the way, on your drive home, you could yeah. Okay. And what's the continuation? Yeshayahu Hanavi says, the heavens are my throne and the earth is my footstool. We're holding the second paragraph. Hadoim b'lashon hapasuk ukmay sherafraf b'lashon hagemara. What is this term hadoim? Hadoim raglai. Okay, the footstool, right? And the earth is a hadoim, right? What is hadoim for my feet? What is this object for my feet? The Gemara says it's called a sherafraf or serafraf. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's called kamken Kisi katan. I think the proper term is called an ottoman.
A small chair.
An ottoman, yeah, meaning to say, yeah, ottoman, yeah. You're in your couch, and then you have an ottoman, right? That you now put your feet up. So Hashem says, I don't just want to sit in my throne. I want to put my feet up. Okay. Again, let's translate it in our terms. I don't just want to bridge the gap between the infinite and the finite. Rather, I want that my feet should be uplifted. So now this is very deep. If the heavens are my throne, which means that the Torah, which we're associating with heavens, right? HaShamayim, is my throne, i.e., it is the facilitator that causes me to come down from my infinite into my finite. Then what is Hashem's feet that needs to now ascend? What happens again when you lift up your feet on the ottoman? Okay, so we said the imagery here is that the brain and the mind are descending, and now when you are sitting down, but now something is ascending. That's the feet. That's what the ottoman is for. So I'm gonna, spoiler alert, the Jewish people are Hashem's feet. And the ottoman, the serafraf, this small lifter of the feet, that's the mitzvahs. Okay? That's the mitzvahs. So now we have an understanding that Torah is like water that descends from on high. But the mitzvahs are what? Are the utilization of the physical things. The Torah is the analysis of the physical things.
It's like making a dam for energy.
1 second. The Torah is are the subjects, are the themes that we learn about. But if you don't apply them to mitzvahs, it's just the mind and the desire. Your friend tells you, I love sushi. Wow, that's so good. Let's bring about sushi for an hour. He's giving you a hint. Let's buy some sushi, right? So the same thing. If there's only Torah, if there's only Shamayim, if there's only HaShamayim, then what? Then it's only Hashem's wisdom coming down into the world. But it's not uplifting the world. There's a downloading and a computing of Hashem's desire and infiniteness, but there's a lack of uplifting of the beings themselves. So Hashem says, in my Torah, I'm going to command you something, i.e., I'm going to cause you to have 613 connections. And in those connections, I'm going to make your feet lift up. My feet are the Jews. Let's see.
What's the ottoman?
The Ottomans is the mitzvahs.
What's the feet?
Feet are the Jews. Vehu, let's see in the words. Vehu mashemamidin tachas raglai. This is what a person places under his feet when he sits. Right? You don't need an ottoman. You don't need the serafraf when you're standing. So you first need to sit, i.e., bring the Torah and bridge the gap between the infinite and the finite. Once you bridge the gap between infinite and finite, draw down the chaos within the order. And let's go deeper, like we said in the beginning of the Maamer. Enter into a space of subconscious energy, soiviv kol almin, within conscious energy, menamalo kol almin. Not only get fixated by the name, but rather enter into the luminary, what causes the name to even exist. But that's a whole other thing, like we said before. Once you have that, now you have to lift up your feet. We said the earth is my footstool. That's what the pasuk says. Al pasuk kirsoin ramav echad lekisi ve'echad lesrafraf. That he lifts up his feet. That one is on the throne and one is on the footstool. What is a kisi? Hu agadol sheyoshvin olav v'serafraf hu akatan shemabidin tachas haraglayim. The throne is this bigger chair that the whole body can lay in. Can relax in. And when you relax in the chair, what are you doing? You're making your brain, right? You see this, right? You're running a lot. I just got to sit down. What does the sitting down do? It relaxes the mind. So too, what does the sitting down of godliness do? Through the medium of Torah, it relaxes the chaos of the infiniteness of Torah. That's exactly what it does. It allows it to channel into the humanness and mortalness of our brains. But that's not enough. Now we have to pick ourselves up. And that's through this ottoman, that's through this footstool. The idea is, the Jewish people are called the feet. Like it says, you are children to Hashem your God. And you are like a son that is a limb of the father, or like a leg of the father. So now this is an amazing analysis, I would say, in my very humble understanding of reflexology. Here you have the source. That when you identify a power within the feet, you're actually able to alleviate some type of deficiency within the head. A massaging, in the old days there was a bloodletting. There's a qualitative advantage to the feet that the head does not have. That the feet itself are able to cause the journeying, the expedition of the whole body. And they lift up the head. That it causes the whole body to go and causes the brain. The so smart of a brain can't do anything. And even the nerves of the brain, and the vitality, as we know, the blood is the soul. The nerve, we need to say again, I don't know the details of this, but the nerves of the brain are found correlated within the feet. And when you let blood meharegel from the feet, misrap harosh, you're able to bring healing to the brain. Yeah.
If you lift your feet up, then it sends the blood flow to your head
Mm-hmm.
and re-energizes.
Also, the feet are like gates of energy, like they let out energy.
So it's the lifting of the feet. She's saying it lets out the energy. It's the extremities, and then also the idea the necessary massaging of different I don't know, the meridians, points of the feet, right? So again, he's saying make his dam. That was the practice then. That the blood letting was this alleviation of whatever. It's not that you had an alleviation in the feet. You needed something that needed to be alleviated in the head.
What am I trying to say? Because it's saying like you need the feet, you need the head.
Oh, 1 second. Needing the head is obvious. The question is maybe the feet are just secondary or subsidiary to the head. He's saying no. On the contrary, in the feet you have the head.
Oh.
Let's see. You heal the head. And you fulfill it, you sustain it. There are so many medical practices that they're utilizing the feet, and it brings health and healing to the head. In this motif, in this paradigm, the feet now can be identified and called the head, and the head is now identified and called the feet. Because now what is subsidiary to who? Who's bringing healing to who? Just like the head in general is the leader of the feet, where the feet don't have a desire of where to go, it's the head, but it's the feet that leads them there. Now in this regard, in this medical practice, you're literally identifying a headness of wisdom within the feet. Huh?
Hashem is saying he needs the feet.
Because
Saying it's not simply a tributary.
One second.
Sorry.
Yes?
No, it's like, because Hashem is like the head, and the feet are the people.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
So it goes back to like the fire when it joins together.
Yes, the oneness. Literally, again, we're not saying now the head is not the head anymore. But there's something that is revealed within the head that it is now a recipient. It is now subsidiary, yeah.
Or just objects of walking.
Correct. They literally have brain energy in them.
That mindless.
Yep. This is all a mashal. This is all a metaphor for the divine. Al yedei skalalus. This is a very, very interesting Kabbalistic idea. What's hiskalalus? Hiskalalus literally means inter-inclusion. The melding together of different attributes. The drawing forth of different levels, different avenues. Kabbalistically, we call this the end is wedged in the beginning, and the beginning is wedged in the end. Or Yasher ve'or Choizer. Two ideas I don't want to elaborate on now, but I'll just say them very succinctly. A direct light and a rebounding light. In Avodah, we call this the tzaddik and the Baal Tshuva. Okay? The tzaddik is the brain, is the head. It's a direct light. Where does the energy of the body come from? It's all from the head. A rebounding light, a reciprocating light, is called the Or Choizer, that's called the feet. That when the head is not doing its job, where do you have to go? You have to bring in the extra troops. Or Yashar Nikra Milamai Lamata. The direct light is also called from above to below. That's called Shamayim, that's called Torah. Anything that is above is not only speaking about spatially, this is an idea of higher versus lower. It's also called a spiritual caliber, sensitivity. Right? Meaning to say, I'm more in tune with this. That's your heavenly side. Versus being more in tune with the earthly, that's the lower parts. The rebounding light, the reciprocal light, is from below to above. And therefore we have this Kabbalistic axiom that anything that is so low really stems from its origin is really coming from above. So it's not that the pancreas or the liver or the spleen or the whatever in the middle of the body is able to bring the healing to the head. It's dafka the feet. Because this principle of no tchilas b'sefer, the end is what's the beginning is what's the end. That in this level, in this caliber, we're calling the feet the head.
Is Sefer Tchilas the same as Ar Yasher Ar Charetz?
Yeah, that's what he's saying. Yeah, that Ar Yasher. Yes. Now we understand who are the feet. Meaning who, when you let blood, who, when you massage them, are able to now bring meaning and energy to the brain, to the Torah, or to Hashem. The Yisrael Nikru Bereishis, the Jewish people are called the beginning. Uksiv, as it says, Vayar Bereishis Loi, he sees his beginning. That when you have an awakening of the Jewish people down here below, you cause a remedying, a tikkun, a healing of the divine lights. That what do we say are the problem with the divine lights? There's too much chaos there. There needs to be order. There needs to be vessels for that divinity. So therefore, Torah is lonely. If you just learn Torah and don't do mitzvahs, there's a loneliness there. You're keeping me in the abstract. You're not bringing me into the concrete. Hashem says, I want part of the Dira B'Tachtonu to be concretized. You can draw for me your beautiful architecture all day. You can have amazing blueprints, but if you don't build a building and let me live in my home, I'm lost. And that's what we find by Moshe Rabbeinu. Shebecheta Egel, no Ashkacha, we brought up the verse before Mei Noach. Here it is, right here. This is literally the verse. Shematzina b'Moshe, we find by Moshe Rabbeinu. So now, he's now bringing that notwithstanding that the head is the Torah and the head is Hashem, but the manifestation of the head, the embodiment of the head in our physical world is Moshe. So we are the feet to a lot of things. We are the feet to the Torah, we are the feet to Moshe, and we are the feet to Hashem. Shebecheda Egel, when there was the sin of the golden calf, natlu mimenu Alef oiris, 1,000 lights, whatever that means. I'll translate in my own terms, but I think 1,000 gradations of brilliance was taken away from Moshe Rabbeinu. 1,000 possibilities of Torah, wisdom, understanding was taken away. The lucidity of divinity, the lucidness of spirituality was taken away from Moshe because of the Jewish people's sin. Ube Shabbos, and on Shabbos, choizrin v'noistin alav b'matana. On Shabbos, those 1,000 lights comes back. How do we have it? Beautiful, Neshama Yisera. The Neshama Yisera is coming from who? Who's Neshama Yisera? That's Moshe Rabbeinu's Neshama, wanting to impart into us his gift. And that's why we say, V'zeo yismach Moshe b'matnas chelkai. Shabbos morning Shachris, what do we say? Rejoicing is Moshe b'matnas chelkai, in the gift of his portion. What's matnas chelkai? The gift of his portion. Which portion? The portion that we caused him to lose is now regained on Shabbos. That's the Neshama Yisera. Valzer Ramzur Azal, and in this our sages intimate, b'mashekosov, regarding the pasuk al pasuk lech reid. It says, Moshe, go down.
Which sin specifically?
The Chet HaEgel. So Hashem's talking to Moshe, and he's receiving the Torah, and he's now telling Moshe, lech reid, go down. You go down.
What's the emphasis? The down?
Let's reid migdulascha. Descend from your loftiness. Right now you're on a high. You're literally not eating, not drinking, you're angelic, you're receiving the Torah. But there's a spiritual wound that has now just occurred in your feet. So now imagine you're trying to sit in a class and something in your body starts to hurt. So I can't focus now, I can't concentrate now. So Hashem says, if you're not concentrating, go down, go home. Lech reid, go see what's the problem. Go see what's the issue with your feet. Lech reid migdulascha, klum nasati lecha gdula ela b'shvi Yisrael. I cannot make you great, and your greatness is not possible unless it's for the Jewish people.
Wow.
So if your feet are not intact, your brain is also not intact.
Hashem said he can't make him great.
Not I can't make you great. The only reason why your greatness is even real is because of the Jews.
This is Hashem saying.
Hashem says that. Lech reid. Reid migdulascha. Klum nasati lecha gdula ela b'shvil Yisrael. There's no reason to pick you up, to cause you to be on this high level unless it's for the Jews. Why? Only because the Jewish people are considered your feet, Moshe Rabbeinu. Shaloi. Shayu Yisrael b'mecheres haregel shaloi. Being that the Jewish people are his feet. And again, everything the Alter Rebbe brings in Psukim. He's not just saying it like haphazardly. He's saying, whatever concept I'm teaching you, I want to bring it in a pasuk. What's the pasuk say? How do I know that the Jewish people are physically, metaphysically, emotionally, spiritually, Moshe Rabbeinu's feet, to the point that what? That when it's hurting, he cannot properly receive the Torah, and 1,000 lights of the lucid brilliance of Torah is taken away. How do I know? Sheish ma'ois elef ragli ha'am. Moshe Rabbeinu says 600,000 is the nation, Ragli Ha'am, the feet of the nation. Just say, the Jewish people are 600,000 people. Why are you saying the Jewish people are 600,000 feet? It's another random pasuk. No. 600,000 are the nation of feet in which I am in. I'm in the midst of. And they now become the makiv, the peripheral, encompassing, subconscious energy of the brain. Meaning to say, like we said, what do the feet have? Remember, why do you go to therapy? That the therapist should tell you what you can't see about yourself. So even about Moshe Rabbeinu, he says, I can't give you the Torah because there's a part of you that you can't see, and there's a part of you that's deficient. And now your brain, i.e. your feet, need a little bit of help. V'kachu b'chol Yisrael, this is applicable to every single Jew. And now what I'm about to say is quoted in many, many ikros of the Rebbe. You could look this up. The Rebbe says the power of the action, the power of the deed. V'kachu b'chol Yisrael, this is applicable to every single Jew. When a Jew perfects their behavior, and when a Jew remedies whatever is missing in their actions, that when you have the power to affect something and impact something in the physical, in the concrete world, in your own feet. What are the feet euphemistically to your soul? That's your physical action, are so to speak, your physical feet that cause all of your spiritual awesomeness to be manifest in the world. You now impact your brain and your heart, zachim, and refine them, elef pa'amim kacha, 1,000 times more. And now I understand, this is not an arbitrary number. Just like Moshe Rabbeinu lost 1,000 lights, i.e. lost 1,000 levels of clarity in divinity, and he regains them on Shabbos, so too, what's the Shabbos of the Jew, so to speak? What's the replenishing of the missingness of the soul? It's the Maisa, the action.
And the Maisa is the feet.
In which the action brings a clarity, meaning to say, I'll say, what am I going to waste my time giving tzedakah to this guy? What am I going to waste my time doing this, going to visit this person? I'll learn, I'll change the world by learning. No, this itself, this physical assistance in the physical world clarifies and refines the heart and the mind 1,000 times more.
This is the ending of a Maisa Ekar?
Yeah. This is it. Yeah.
Like, and maybe I'm like off the thing, but let's say a person has like all these, like the chaos, like the head of, there's like chaos. It's not chaos, but like how you describe it.
Yeah, it's the intellectual is more abstract, and because it's more abstract, it's more chaotic relative to the calmness of the world. Yeah, the tangibility. Very good. Yes.
This person has like a disconnect between the mind, like they have all these, and there's like a disconnect between having it connect to the feet,
yeah,
actually having it be in action. Like, is there?
I think that's what he's saying. He's saying if a person is identifying a lacking within their heart or within their mind, i.e. the heaven part of your being, the HaShamayim of yourself, the Torah of yourself, the only way to bring the clarity in your heart and your mind and the tangibility to that is doing action.
What if you're not missing that part, the heart and the mind, but you're missing the being able to do it into the action?
Oh, that's.
Is there a way to like?
I feel like the action itself is the.
So why do they have a generator at the power plant? So you can power your blender.
You understand? Like, what if someone has like the architectural plans, but they have a hard time actually building the thing?
They have to build. They have to hire builders. They have to do. That's exact. Excuse me, Jew. Would you like to put on tefillin? Is the question? Do you want to light Shabbos candles? I'm speaking about the Rebbe, right? Yeah. It's not. Excuse me. Do you want to learn a Blat Gemara with me in the middle of Times Square?
Isn't that Maisa also? Isn't learning wouldn't
in element, but it's Gadol Talmud shemevi lidei Maisa. You can't tell me that my Talmud is the Maisa. There is clearly a difference between Torah, Avodah, and Gemilas Chasadim.
It's like the famous story of the guy not wanting to pull the horse out of the blood bath.
Right? You can, but you don't want to.
No, they sat around discussing
Right.
whether they can be Bittul Torah to help this
Yeah.
poor guy.
By the time, very good. You hear. This is beautiful. Say again.
There's a bunch of goyim sat around discussing. The guy walks into the base Medrash, and there's a bunch of goyim sitting around learning, and he says to them,
Not goyim, geoinim.
Goyim. He says, my horse is stuck in the mud and it's sinking. If he gets farther down, it's going to ruin my whole carriage of my horse and my livelihood. I can't afford anything else. And so they sat around discussing whether they could be Bittul Torah in order to help this guy with his livelihood.
Right.
Whether they're allowed to do it. By the time they decided, yes, we can, the horse was gone.
Right. So what if
The guy was wiped out.
Right. I understand that. So I'm saying, what if?
So if you have a problem with that, the struggle is the solution. That's exactly the point. We're saying if you, and this is all.
They should have just went and done it.
This is all of us. All of us have.
If you have trouble getting up and going, just do it.
With that hard.
So again, this is our struggle. We are very, very powerful in the realm of imagination, in creativity, but it comes to action, and we can't execute. So the Rebbe is saying you have to identify how to execute. You have to know what your feet are.Maybe you need to hire somebody to help you execute. Maybe you need to hire somebody to help you find your feet.
She actually,
And by the way, this is exactly what Moshe Rabbeinu.
She actually has a good point.
Her whole point is good.
I think the answer to that point is that
I thought that there would be like a nice.
you should learn the right thing to execute. You should learn the right thing that'll get you to do action. And but the thing is like you have to have your mind though. Your focus shouldn't be on anything else besides that event that ultimately I want to do the action.
Right.
That's the main thing.
If you're really clear
As in,
about
to not get stuck. To not get
Touch?
stuck.
Right.
Oh,
Not get stuck
hey,
in this
what's up,
discussion.
baby?
How do I find out more about this?
I'll answer. Text me again. I'm gonna add you to the group of Hashem.
very
Just
nice.
so.
Yeah.
Oh, welcome.
Should be the
Okay.
beginning of the
Levi's your brother.
But it's when it's
See, yeah, I was looking through the
This is
start.
yours.
I
Yeah, we
was
have
like-
connection.
I was like, wait a second.
Yeah,
man,
this is yours.
So yeah, I'll definitely text you. I'd like to come to more
So you
things.
know what I
Hashem,
heard?
so nice to meet you.
I heard a great thing, which is.
Yeah, like they say, like if you can't decide
Shoot
between the vanilla ice cream or the chocolate one, you'll have none.
if you're shooting a gun and you're trying to hit a target,
Right.
aim even if it's badly.
Right.
So do it. As in just shoot the gun and miss completely. And it's dark outside, right? Sometimes it gets really chaotic. It's dark, you're blindfolded, and you never use the gun in your life, but just try something. Like something's gotta give for you to be able to figure out, I need to adjust my angle, I need to do the scope, and you figure it out.
Yeah.
But you're right, it's more complicated than that life. But like you
No,
gotta
it's
do
true. I
something.
think that is a big part of it.
Just
like,
do any
like,
action.
Right.
And you'll learn.
Let's see.
you'll learn.
Let's see.
You know,
Let's see the words.
Life's the best teacher.
V'kachu b'chol Yisrael. This is applicable to every single Jew. That he remedies his actions, and what will happen is 1,000 times more lucid will his heart and mind be. So now, what do we say? What's the hadoim? What's the ottoman? What's the footstool? Lebechinas regel for the feet, meaning to say what's going to uplift the Jew to get him out of the blettel, you said, out of the muck, right? Out of the shehu b'chinas Knesset Yisrael. That is the assembly of the Jewish people. Knesset Yisrael is really it's not us individually, it's us in our core. As the Jewish people are all wound up together as one. Ha'aretz shu mitzvahs. Ha'aretz, it says, ha'aretz hadoim raglai. What is my footstool? The earth is my footstool. So now we have to identify. If heaven is my Torah, right? Heaven is my throne, which is the Torah. So then what is the earth and acting as a footstool? So what's going to catapult and energize and cause an ascent into the soul? This is physical mitzvahs. And generally speaking, this is tzedakah. The power of lifting somebody up financially. That's why it says charity lifts up the nation. That you ascend from below to above. The pasuk is tzedakah uplifts or exalts the nation. Goy doesn't just mean Gentile or nation. There's something mystical here. Goy is Gimel Vav Yud. Shem, what are you lifting up? Tzedakah lifts up the goy. So let's start with each letter. When you give tzedakah, a person is giving. By the way, how do you say money in Aramaic? The Gemara refers to mois or damim. Damim means blood.
Wow.
Blood, sweat. That's literally what it's called. Your money, i.e., your blood, is now being. You have the blood. The transfusion is the giving blood, right? Giving money is giving blood. That's literally what you're doing to the world. That you're now bloodletting. You're massaging the feet, because a Jew needs help, and you're not going to help him by learning Gemara with him. You're going to help him by doing a mitzvah ma'asis.
Giving him money.
Literally, physically feeding him. So now look at the word. Shem oisius gimel vav yud. What's gimel? The hainu halas amidus. Gimel is a euphemism for the three primary attributes of chesed, gvura, and tiferes. Okay. Shenechlak in derech klal legimel b'chinas chesed din rachamim. In general, you have three vectors in the Kabbalistic tree. You have the right, the left, and the center. So that is the idea of three. Now, netzach hoid yesoid are the auxiliary powers, which translated into English roughly as netzach is victory or nobility. Hoid is humility, and yesoid is bonding and connection. Those are offshoots of chesed, gvura, and tiferes. So you have chesed, netzach, you'll have gvura, hoid, and you'll have tiferes, yesoid.
Gvura and hoid?
Yes. Because it takes discipline to have humility.
Right.
But let's stick. Those netzach, hoid, yesoid are only offshoots of chesed, gvura, tiferes. So that's the gimel. Again, what are we doing? Tzedakah is teroimam. Tzedakah is exalting, is catapulting goy. Goy is me and you. But what part of me and you? Goy is the three emotional faculties that had a descent. Yud. How do you spell goy? Gimel vav yud. So you're now launching the three emotional attributes that had a descent into the yud. What's the yud? Shei b'chinas chachma. But how do you do that? What's your rope? What's your rope that you're pulling to get to the yud? Yud is the idea of chachma. We had yud, kei, vav, kei is chachma, bina, etc. Is the vav. The vav is literally like a rope, a hamshacha that is connecting between the emotions and the intellect. This is literally what you said. What do you do in order to marry the divorced energies of intellect and emotions? Is action. Action is the shadchan. Action is the rabbi. You need the edim, right? Who's going to marry us? Who's going to connect the intellect and the emotions, the masculine and the feminine? That's the vav. And that's the tzedakah that's evoking the connection between the two. That this is what's drawing down from theory to action.
Why were we referred to as good? Not the explanation part, like on the surface level.
Any nation, every single person.
Holy nation.
We are goy.
Okay.
Every nation. Kach. So now, just like you do that on a mystical level, when you give tzedakah, you are literally reawakening the emotional attributes. Guys, what happens? What happens when you give tzedakah to a person? What happens? What's supposed to happen when you give a good amount? Yeah, they smile. Smile is an expression of the brain or the emotions. It's the emotions. You've now targeted their emotional qualities, and you have now lifted them up to the intellect. That's the power of tzedakah. Guys, when you do a mitzvah, you're giving tzedakah to Hashem. He's the descender. He's the lowly one. He feels deflated. He feels dejected. So the mitzvah is, he says, what is the footstool that lifts up the feet? And you now revert the midos, the emotions, back to the intellect. Because what is something poor, dejected, is really the split and the splintering between emotions and intellect. And by the way, what does it say in the Gemara? Ein ani ela bedas. Poverty is in the mind. The idea of poverty is not only I don't have money, it's that I don't have a seamless connection between intellect and emotions. So tzedakah is not only physical money financially, it's also a good word, gmilus chasadim, that's tzedakah, is the idea of being able to marry a person's dejected emotions back to their intellect. When you do tzedakah, you are now teroimam goy. You're now stringing together the gimel, the three emotional faculties that are the primary emotions, to his yud, to his chachma.
What does it have to do with the intellect? Like, I understand the part where you're uplifting their emotions, but what does it mean to the intellect?
Because the intellect is that which is the anchor that allows for the dejection to occur in the first place. So everything has an origin. The intellect is the origins of the emotions. Huh?
Just like this connection between the person could be super wealthy and be poor.
Right. They're lacking emotional stability.
They could be poor, then they can feel their.
And they can be also brilliant. They're brilliant, but they don't feel it. They're missing the connection. There needs to be a bridging of the gap between the two worlds.
What's the mila of someone as opposed to someone earning that money, as opposed to when you're giving it to them? It seems like there's a specific mila that this person, you're now bridging this person's intellect and emotions.
What's the question? That's
I'm asking.
Oh, as opposed to money emotionally?
Why is there, I'm saying, so it seems there's a specific mila, but when, let's say, I go and earn a certain amount of money,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's not going to bridge my emotions and intellect.
Yeah.
If I get given a certain amount of money, you're saying when you do tzedakah, you're bridging this person's emotion and intellect.
Say the Maamer is because he has, his feet have something that your head doesn't have. So when you lift him up, you lifted yourself up. That's literally what we said. 1,000 times more, you become...
You're bridging your own...
Of course.
But
by doing him, you bridge yours. We just said.
I'm saying, forget about yours. I'm saying, how are you bridging his? By giving him money.
Yes.
How are you bridging his emotions and intellect?
That's what that's what the money does. That's what the food does. Let's say food. What are you doing? Food. When you're starving, you're now bringing the soul back into the body. That's a euphemism for intellect and emotions. That you're bringing the energy of the emotions back to the intellect.
Is there a specific mila of when you giving it to that person, they have a specific revelation, as in they have a specific, by receiving tzedakah, they have a specific extra connection between the intellect and the emotion?
That's a great question.
Or is it that if they go and earn that money, it's going to be the same thing? It's just the money.
No. It's the gemilus chasadim. It's the tzedakah.
So the fact that they receive now they receive it.
Yes.
I would love to explore that sometime.
Yes.
So that sounds really cool.
Yes, for sure.
I'd love to understand how that is or why that is.
Let's see. Let's see. ויסתלוסו לו בחירס יוד, שהוא בחירס החוכמה על ידי הוו, שהוא בהמשך בחבר המחשב, ככה ממש נעשה למטה מנפש האדם, הלויס והמידס, בשיחלו בנוסי, כי כשהמידס נפרד בשכל, הם נחשב אז לדבר בפני עצמי. ולכן יש לך אדם שמסער ליבי בשעת התפילה. And therefore you have a person that they are inspired in the time of davening. וכי יצא בה, and the like. שאז היא ש"ס גדלוס המויכין, that it's literally a time of expanded consciousness. By the way, this is to your question. And after davening, it dissipates, and it's as if they never davened. Meaning to say, the love dissipates, and it seems like it never was. And you're now going on your way, and it's as if you never davened. You can't recognize yourself. I'm not a spiritual person. I'm obsessed with physicality. Without rationale. Why? Because those two dimensions of self are two different leagues. Because at the end of the day, emotions are divided from the intellect. Which is not the case when we focus on their inter-inclusion and we connect the two. That we now inflate and imbue the emotions with a stronger power from the level of the intellect. And this is called with all your soul. We said that before it's b'chol levavcha, coming to Hashem, the meditation, right? That's with all your heart. With all your soul, this is allowing for the body to feel its soul. Like a person that gives tzedakah to another person, now you're feeding them, you're letting their soul come into their body, so to the intellect and the emotions are now combining, implying all of the faculties of the soul. Even the lowest levels, which is the feet, that the feet now feel like an elevation. So when you daven and you stay with it, so to speak, the meditation is not just ethereal, it's concretized. That's literally, the impoverished is the soul. that feels like, oh, you're gonna just you're gonna lose me. Because now you're gonna go into the physical world and try and make money. You're gonna forget about all the meditation, all the lofty things. But if we have this in mind, bechol nafshecha, that what? That the tzedakah is an expression of the soul. That the body is an expression of the soul. It's just a conduit. Then we don't have this dissonance between intellect and emotions, body and soul. Generally speaking, this is the two fields that we're discussing of heaven and earth, Torah and mitzvahs. Right? We said,
Check for a second.
yeah.
I'm so sorry. Isn't davening also a time of emotion?
Yes.
I thought we were saying that it's
Emotion as it's properly attached to the intellect. Not as it is. If it's only emotion, then what's going to happen is afterwards it dissipates. And So what is your heaven and what is your earth? He's saying Torah is your heaven and mitzvahs are your earth. Torah is your throne, the idea of coming, the divine chaotic energy coming down into the world, and now the footstool, the ottoman that is uplifting the feet, which is the Jewish people, back. However, v'derech prat b'Torah atzma shamayim, that's in general, that shamayim is Torah and aretz is mitzvahs. Now we're going to say that there's shamayim and aretz in Torah itself. Okay, we're going to zoom in. That was a zoom out. Now we're going to zoom in. In Torah itself, there's shamayim and aretz. What's the shamayim of Torah? The heaven of Torah. And what's the earth of Torah? Shamayim zu Torah shebichsav. Shamayim is the written law. Why? Shamayim, shamayim. As we say, that heaven is also a conjugation of two terms. Shamayim, there is water. Okay? Now what does water do? Water descends from on high, literally rain, and comes down into the earth. So who's the earth? The earth is the feminine, and the drops of water are the masculine. And the Gemara literally says, like a woman receiving from the male in order to procreate, so to the earth, I know it's interesting, in English we say mother earth, right? Literally receives the procreative seed, i.e. the rain that enters into it and causes the growth of the earth. So too in Torah itself, Torah shebichsav is shamayim. It's the masculine energy. Shamayim deiraisa b'chachma nafkes, which is represented by in Torah there's shamayim and aretz. The shamayim of Torah is the masculine energy, which is called Torah shebichsav. The aretz nikra Torah shebal peh, and the land, the earth of Torah is Torah shebal peh, is the oral law. Ki eretz miloshin ratzin. As we know, what is eretz? Eretz has the same. Eretz is the same letters as Ratzon. Not only the earth, when Hashem says the Eretz, it also means my will. Maamer our sage say, Lama nikra shma Eretz. Why is Eretz Yisrael called Eretz Yisrael? Sheratzasa, that she wants to do the will of her Creator. So Eretz, and also what? That she runs to do the will. How do you say running in Hebrew? Ratz, right? So Eretz is Alef Ratz, that the divine is running, right? What do we just say? Who do you run with? What do you run with? Your feet. So who's doing the running? So the sages of the oral law of Torah Shebal Peh are the feet, so to speak, of Torah that are causing the running, i.e. the fulfillment of the will of Hashem to be manifest in the world. Unlike Torah Shebichsav, that if I learn Torah Shebichsav, I don't know how to shake a lulav and esrog, I don't know how to put on tefillin, I don't know how to keep Shabbos. All of that is not the will of Hashem, it's the wisdom and the ethereality of God, not the actual practicalization of God. Eretz is literally Alef Ratz, godliness, Echad, Hashem, Ratz is running. The idea is, Torah Shebal Peh, when a person learns anything outside of Torah Shebichsav, this is the ultimate level of grasping Hashem's desire. To know what and how, for example, like we said, a sukkah that is higher than 20 cubits is puzzle. Who told me that? The Torah doesn't say. The Torah Shebichsav doesn't say. What is the emphasis in Torah Shebichsav? It's just the letters. And the letters themselves, are magical, are powerful. However, they're only and merely the names of Hashem. That's why we say Torah is called Mikra. Mikra means I'm calling to Hashem, but I only can call to you. I'm not personally intimate with you. When you're intimate with a person and you really, really know them, you don't need to call their name, right? You're just there. You're with them. So it's not like, oh, Mendy. No, you're here. You're here with me, and I don't have to say your name because this name becomes superficial relative to the inner relationship that you're cultivating.
When do we say that the Jews were called out to Hashem? They were in a pretty bad situation.
Right? Just like a person calls another person's name. When do I call your name? When I don't know you so well, or when I want to get your attention. But that all represents a superficial dimension of the relationship. That's from above to below. That's called masculine Torah. In the masculine Torah, it's only about the name. But in the feminine Torah, what's the feminine Torah? The feminine Torah is the reciprocal effect from below to above. That's the earth. Everything is from below to above. Does it make sense to you? Have you grasped God's divine wisdom in your mind? If you don't have it in your mind, you didn't learn Torah. You could learn Torah Shebechsav, but not Torah Shebal Peh. And we spoke about this on Sukkot. This is really the difference, and I don't want to elaborate on this now for the sake of brevity, but it really is the difference between Reform and Conservative Judaism, and dare I say, other religions that stem from Judaism, and Yiddishkeit, authentic Yiddishkeit itself. That this is really the difference. Yeah. One second. That through the grasping of Hashem's divine desire within my psyche, within my being, that's how I become subsumed within the divine womb of Hashem. Just like we said, how does a woman herself procreate? Is with the masculine seed. So too, the heaven needs to give to the earth. The Torah Shebechsav needs to give to the Torah Shebal Peh. But who's actually going to become impregnated? Who's actually going to give birth? That's the Jewish people, to chidushim, to novelties in Torah that are now saying, Hashem, you want to father children? I'm going to have to understand what you're saying. The understanding of what Hashem's saying, that's in Torah Shebal Peh. Ushloisha nikru eretz. Knesset Yisrael, v'Torah Shebal Peh, u'mitzvahs. 3 things are called land. 3 things are called earth. 3 things are called runners, right? Alef, Ratz. 3 things are called the feet, right? The Jewish people, Torah Shebal Peh, and mitzvahs, like we just said in the previous paragraph, how the mitzvahs are. V'kulam nirmazim b'bikra echad, and they're all hinted to in one pasuk. This is a pasuk from, I think, Yirmiyah. Eretz, 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 Shimi Dvar Hashem. Yeah, you can look it up. Land, the translation is, O land, O land, O land, listen, hearken to the word of Hashem. Who's O land number 1? That's the Jew. But what the earthiness of the Jew, the physicality, the concretization of the Jew, the feetiness of the Jew, that gives credence and possibility for Moshe Rabbeinu to even receive the Torah. Number 2 is Torah Shebal Peh, the oral law, that is the concretization of the written law. And then mitzvahs, which is the concretization of the abstract theory of Torah itself. You had a question?
What is what is Torah Shebal Peh? What does Torah Shebechsav receive from Torah Shebal Peh? Because before we were saying the feet give.
Beautiful.
Give
Very good. Very good. It receives understanding, but real understanding. Meaning to say, that's like saying, what does the woman contribute to the man in the physical relationship? She's the creator of the child.
She's part of the half. She's part of the.
She's the facilitator of the child to the world. So too, Torah Shebechsav is literally nothing. It's literally I'm going to say this graphically, but a waste of seed unless it has Torah Shebal Peh. Unless you have learners learning it.
Right.
It's rain, but doesn't have an earth to rain on.
It's like a power generator without
yes.
the thing, the whole thing happening.
Chevre, I know it's late. We have one paragraph left, so I'm gonna, for the sake of. However, we have to go back.
We're already here.
Yeah, we're already here. We might as well finish.
We're already already on the other side of this. 12:30. It's going to take you 5 years to finish.
No. I said my goal for tonight is just one. I know. My goal for tonight is just one Maamer. So what does it say? So this is from Yeshaya, chapter 66. It says what? What's the next pasuk? Koyamar Hashem, right? HaShamayim Kisi. Back to now. Now Hashem says, "My heavens are my throne," right? And the earth is my footstool. But what's the next pasuk? Ach eze bayis chuli. What house can you build for me that can be my place of rest? You hear this?
What's maftech in them?
1 second. The pasuk is, the heavens are my throne, the earth is my footstool. And Hashem says, notwithstanding the heavens are my throne and the earth is my footstool. Chaver, where do you sit? You sit on Eastern Parkway with a throne and an ottoman? Where do you sit? You need a palace. You need a home to house the throne and the footstool.
New York City, we're all kings.
You need a house to throne. You need a home to house the heaven and the earth. So now he's saying, what's heaven and earth? What's the throne and the footstool? Where can it abide? Where can it live? You need a home. So Hashem says, Eize bayis, what is the home? What house can you build for me that can be my place of rest? That means to say that I can't rest in Torah and I cannot rest in mitzvahs. My feet cannot rest on the footstool and my mind cannot rest in the throne unless I have a house that they should go in. So now what's the house? And then finish the pasuk. My hand made all of these. All these came to be my word. And I've decided I will look to this one. The pasuk says, it's very beautiful. Ve'elzeh abit, and to this I will gaze. El ani unechei ruach. To who am I going to gaze? To the poor person of crushed spirit who hastens to do my bidding. Okay, this is the end of the pasuk. So now listen how he interprets. Amazing. That's why we can't stop. Ach eize bayis. But where is the house to which the throne and the ottoman will reside, to which the throne and the ottoman will have a place? It is not the manner of putting furniture outside a house. You do that when you're leaving the house. But furniture needs a house to go in. So in order for Torah and mitzvahs to actually be Torah and mitzvahs, it needs a home to be able to be learned and to be able to be achieved. You hear what he's saying? So what's that home? Heaven and earth need a space called the Jewish soul to be its home to facilitate its learning and its action. So what is that? Bechol levavcha was the inspiration of both your hearts. That's what we said is the idea of Shema Yisrael, not to look at the crust, but look at the inner dimension. Bechol nafshecha is understanding that the mitzvahs justify the Torah, and that's the Torah Shebal Peh. But what about Bechol Me'edecha with all your everything? Shu bebechinas makif. We have to get to the level of the encompassing energy. Just like a house. What does a house do? The furniture is called the pnimius of the house. That's what gives character, right? What the things that you buy, the things that you place, the tchotchkes, the pictures, the style table, the style chair. But you need something, the home, to envelop those items. The power of the home, that's all your everything. Just like a home physically envelops the person in the roof and in the walls. So what is the home? What is the roof and the walls to allow the heaven and earth, to allow Torah mitzvahs to manifest? Bayis tefillah. That's a shul. That's a place of davening. Bayis tefillah is not a shul that you go to daven. You become the shul. Your physical being is the space to allow for the Torah and the mitzvahs to now manifest. And they cannot be manifest. They are truncated in their expression as long as you didn't daven properly. You hear what he's saying? Meaning to say, what is the gasoline that allows for the car to keep going? The car is the Torah, the car is the mitzvahs, the car is the destination, dinner b'tachtenim, all that. But what is the motivation? What invigorates me to want to learn today? What invigorates me to want to do a mitzvah today? That's bayis tefillah. Shaydei tefillah chai pa'amim. And specifically Shemona Esrei. That you daven to Hashem 18 times. Baruch Ata. And you say 18 times Baruch Ata. You're drawing down the encompassing lights of the divine, transcendent, subconscious energy of Hashem. And this is how you draw down from above to below. What do you do in Shemona Esrei? You bend and prostrate. The bending and the prostrating in Shemona Esrei is the idea of the humility and the transparentness that your body becomes the home for God. Your body physically becomes the home for the Torah mitzvahs, for the heaven and the earth, for the throne and the ottoman. The idea is, truthfully, you think you're grasping Hashem when you learn Torah, when you do mitzvahs. Truthfully, Hashem is ungraspable, even through Torah and even through the mechanics of mitzvahs. And He is divested from any emotion. Even the inner recesses of your heart cannot grasp Him. Only a glimmer, only a ray, only a glimpse. And even a revelation within the mind, and you learn the whole Torah. At the end of the day, you're only having a little micro. It's only the periphery and the energy that envelops alone. And therefore it says, where will I gaze at you? Where is like Hashem going to stare at you? Upon this I'm going to gaze. This is an allusion, an intimation to the idea of davening. That means to say that your Torah and your mitzvahs are beautiful, but they're too sophisticated for the yearning of the heart. The yearning of the heart needs a place to pray, but it doesn't need a physical place to pray. It needs the body to be ready for prayer. And the heart is the expression of the body being ready for prayer. And this is where Hashem says, I want to look at you. I want to look at you without any strings attached. As long as I'm going to limit you to say, did you put on tefillin today? And you're going to tell me no. And did you learn Torah today? And you're going to tell me no. There's strings attached. There's something there that is deficient and missing in the soul. So Hashem says, at the end of the day, I want to connect to you in a place that there is not only no deficiency, there cannot be deficiency. This is the place of the neshama that is actually even beyond Torah mitzvahs, which we manifested through davening. O Pirush HaPasuk, and the explanation of the verse, that's called Eila Yodai Asasa, right? He says all of this, that's called Eila Yodi Asasa, that my hand made all these, heaven and earth, and all these came to being by my word. Since everything is mine, you cannot build me a dwelling on your own that will confine me wherever you want, and I will decide myself where I will dwell. So Hashem says, you think I dwell in heaven and earth? You think I dwell in my own architecture? No. And it's all these things declares Hashem. That that's the word and the language of God. That's not where I dwell. That's not where I manifest. That's not where I want to gaze. To this I gaze. What do we say, the pasuk? And I've decided that I'm not going to dwell in those things that you made for me, in the physical structures. Rather, I will look to this one, to the poor person of crushed spirit who hastens to do my bidding. Who is that? That's the davener. Because the davener has the humility to say, at the end of the day, when I learn Torah, and at the end of the day, when I do mitzvahs, there can be potential deficiencies there. I'm not going to do it like Moshe Rabbeinu. I'm not going to do it like this chassid. I'm not going to learn like this person. He's so much smarter. But everybody can daven. The kukuriku of the Baal Shem Tov boy, anybody can have a again, I want to say lowly of spirit, but a brokenness, like the Kutzgerber says, right? So broken that you become whole, that you let the light in, right? So ve'alzeh abid, that's who Hashem is gazing at. Bechinas tefillah abid, hu bechinas habata. It says in the Zohar that when you daven, you're istakel. What is it? Istakel. What is it? Yakara de Malka. That you're Yakara de Malka. When a person davens, they're gazing at the glory of the King. And we want to know why you're gazing at the glory of the King? Because Hashem is gazing back at you. This is called the idea of gazing. Histaklus. This is the idea of focusing your eyes. Like who? Shir Hashem says, your eyes are like doves. You ever seen doves look at each other? They can't look away. Also spiritually and emotionally, it says that the dove is one of the only animals that doesn't cheat on its mate. Why? Because metaphysically speaking, or metaphorically speaking, when the eyes are focused, there's nothing distracting. So Hashem says, when you daven, I can't look at anything else. I can't even look at your Torah. I can't even look at your mitzvahs, because those are only furniture that the house that requires a house to be in. שהיא בכנס המחשבה לבד, והיא בכנס המעקב וסבק מעל דרך משהו מחשבה שמעקבת מחשבה זה הדבר שחושב עליו, וכן הראייה והסתכלוס חולי. מה שאין כי דיבורי מייסה הם פנימיים חולי. That you need the makifim. You need to enter into this subconscious strata of the soul that is now housing the furniture. And not only limiting your soul to the furniture, to the Torah and the mitzvahs that you do. This is a very, very revolutionary concept in Chassidus. You hear what he's saying? Ve'abata zuhu el ani. Who is he looking at? He's looking at the impoverished, unechei ruach, and the downtrodden of spirit. Who is that? B'chines bittel, the one who says, yeah, even though I learned and I davened, it doesn't mean anything if I'm not connecting to Hashem. That you have nothing of your own. Afilu Torah mitzvahs, even Torah mitzvahs. Because at the end of the day, you cannot draw down the full gamut, the full spectrum of Hashem's essentiality through Torah mitzvahs. She'im panimim. That's like saying my throne and my footstool doesn't need a house. It's only through the physical and emotional nullification in prayer. Just like physically a king who comes to the city. Or the only way that you can express yourself to the king is literally by bending and prostrating yourself, because there is such a distance between your personality and his. And therefore, that's how he comes into your being. That's what he's gazing at. He's gazing at the contrition of the soul. That's why you say, blessed is Hashem. You draw down Hashem, that you're drawing down from your essence and from your being. Look how gorgeous this is. The end of the Maamer. Regarding this level of transcendent subconscious energy that is not limited to the Torah that you learn or the mitzvahs that you do, but rather the essence of the soul that is unscathed and unscathable. Hashem says, and who is this saying this? This is Bilam saying, Lo hibit avin beYaakov. He does not see iniquity in Jacob. When does he not see iniquity? Hashem looks at the innards and examines the kidneys, examines the innards. He examines how much yearning, how much craving the Jew has from the inner dimensions of the or inner recesses, if you're really truthful or not. But that's only if you're dealing with Hashem in the pnimius level, in a level of integration. And in the level of integration, you understand differently than he understands. And I understand differently. And there's a spectrum of intellectuality that therefore you're saying, oh, you can't enter my class. It's to, you're to this, you're to that. Hashem says, when you're dealing with the subconscious strata, you're dealing with the subconscious energy, which again, who davens? You can't say this guy davens better than that guy. Nobody knows each other's heart. You could say, potentially, he learns better and he does mitzvahs in a more punctilious way. But in davening, the contrition of the heart, the humility, he does not see any iniquity, he does not see any fault within the essence of the soul of Yaakov. Only that Hashem is with him at all times, unconditionally to Torah and unconditionally to mitzvahs. And that's the power of tefillah. And this is, Mirz Hashem, the first Maamer that we conclude from Torah.